started.
Oh, man, it looks like we're going.
Alright, so I know a decent amount about SuperNinTaylor, has been a regular in our Randomizer tournaments, and I noticed that PantsNeck this morning posted a PB in the Discord chat, so hoping for great performances.
Oh, nice. I'm assuming that they're both going to head straight into Link to the Past. They are.
Yep. This is a pretty traditional start for most folks. There's really only one item in logic on normal, downing blue Brinstar, so hopefully not going to get burned by that.
Ooh, an early hammer out of Sanctuary.
That's going to put their minds very much at ease having that right off the bat. Opens up a lot, gives them basically tempered sword power right off. I'm sort of surprised neither runner went for a tree pool straight out of Super Metroid, wasted that top tier tree pool, but hopefully not missing out too much there. They'll get some bombs coming up. And looking like PantsNeck's going to go straight for a Houlihan.
So far, nothing good from really either tree pole that we've seen from SuperNinTaylor, and the little crab under the bush gives a little magic as well. It's nothing like bombs that you're really looking to see from that.
It looks like just Mistles at the Lumberjack Cave, so far staving off that Aga 1. And PantsNeck's doing something that I like to do a lot in my runs, is that Houlihan directly to the Link's house. Just because that's where it always dumps you after you hit a Houlihan. So if you don't know what a Houlihan room is, it's actually relatively recently discovered in the past 5 years or so. And since then, folks have discovered a way to access it. And basically, when the game doesn't know where to put Link, when you enter a new screen, it drops you in the Houlihan room, which is a free 100 and some rupees, I believe. But SuperNinTaylor looking out and getting 300 from the cave in Lost Woods.
Ooh, and finally getting bombs from one of the tree poles.
Yep, so that's going to be really good for a Zora check, hopefully sooner rather than later.
We're seeing PantsNeck do a pretty early Easter check here.
This is a little bit unusual given that we've seen the Eastern's a pendant, but perhaps this is an attempt to be an aggressive play to hopefully put himself ahead of NinTaylor or give himself some early information. And I do believe we saw a green pendant. Uncle Sash told us it was at Skullwoods. Then PantsNeck also picked up some boots from Sahasrula's closet, some fashionable footwear he's been hiding away there.
Ooh.
That could help or hinder. It really depends how much you've practiced with both, but certainly someone like yourself, Ivan, is good with or without.
Yeah, it's much nicer just to have the high jump boots, but you know, you can get around without them.
And with those 4 bombs pulled from the tree pool, NinTaylor is getting a nice clean Kakariko, hopefully not having to rerun any of Kakariko, except for maybe Sick Kid and the Magic Bat a little bit later on. And PantsNeck coming up on the first chest, just a compass at Eastern. So.
Yeah, SuperNinTaylor really not finding much in early Kakariko here either.
This is potentially good news for PantsNeck.
Yeah.
No chicken glitches this time. That's good. I will never pick up a chicken in that hut ever again.
Yeah, no, I've done that before too.
Let's see. PantsNeck going for a second chest. Oh, and the
Ooh.
flute. Big pay.
Very nice.
So that's some great early game access that immediately gives him Western Death Mountain access. So that's a check for Spectacle Rock, the Spectacle Rock Cave item if he chooses, and potentially one additional item in Upper Norfair in the high jump. Just an E-tank at Library. Don't think we're going to be missing that too much.
And some missiles at the race game.
So poor PantsNeck, only 2 items only 2 dungeon items so far and 1 regular item. The flute was pretty big, but really hoping for something else here, maybe progression. Remains to be seen whether the flute will be progression or not. Unlikely not this early in. PantsNeck deftly performing first dark room in Eastern Palace, despite not having a sword. And NinTaylor giving us our traditional South Shore check here, definitely going for quantity over potential quality. I'm not entirely sure of NinTaylor's familiarity or comfortableness with Super Metroid, given that he went out of his way to pick up that E-tank, potentially looking for some early Super Metroid game, or maybe not as confident in his Super Metroid.
Yeah, early E-tanks are good to take, honestly. You're going to find them. And you don't really want to be stuck getting super late into the game without much energy.
And it's looking like there's going to be an item on Armos Knights in Eastern Palace. A little bit unfortunate for PantsNeck, but may end up not having to go back there, given that it's just a pendant dungeon. Trollborn's being trolled.
Yeah, these mini mold arms are a pain in the butt to hit with the hammer. Let's do one more.
Yep, and I certainly don't blame NinTaylor for going for the hammer kill here. He wants to have 1 left over for the Ice Rod Cave check, very smartly conserving his bombs.
Ooh, and the Morph Ball in Mini Mold Arm Cave. So we finally have some decent progression in Super Metroid. I don't believe that we've seen any power bombs yet. So we're still a little limited as to what we can do in Super Metroid, but it does help a little bit.
It's an excellent point. Certainly 5 power bombs, it's possible to do most of green and blue Brinstar, but it's much slower. You'd really prefer to have 10 power bombs to be super comfortable and go at optimal speeds there. SuperNinTaylor very fortunately picking up an extra heart container in that cave as well. These crabs here are deceptively powerful, doing 2 hearts of damage with green mail, so he was taking it a little bit careful there after the trolled worm fest that we had, but clearing it nicely.
Looks like SuperNinTaylor's going to head up and start his escape sequence.
I'm not sure if NinTaylor has done a map check yet, but if he has, it's potentially a smart play to check escape here before Eastern Palace. And very fortunately, again, having found that hammer so early is going to be able to loop in the front of escape very, very easily and very nicely with this Uncle check, something that I would normally. A little surprised NinTaylor going for the kills on these blue knights. It would be really easy to set up a death warp here in the bottom of front of escape, and that could have done some of the work.
Yeah, it looks like he was trying to get another bomb pull from the tree. Almost too.
PantsNeck, having some pretty smart routing choices, or lucky, depending on how you look at it, activating that flute. Let's get your 07s.
Ooh, we find the screw attack in the front of escape here. That'll definitely help out in Super Metroid. Screw attack is very nice to have early on.
Especially with the lack of power bombs so far, that could really optimize NinTaylor's routing. And he's certainly one of the runners I would expect to know when to choose the screw attack over a power.
Definitely.
And unfortunately not pulling a key from the front of escape there, so not going to be able to do dark rooms in the back of escape, and going to go ahead and save and quit out. Maybe looking to go towards Eastern Palace's own self now to finish up some of the checks before heading to Super. While we're retreading some old ground here, this tournament is sponsored by Vi.gg, which is, they've generously put up some money, so there are actual stakes in this particular tournament, up to $400 for first place, possibly more depending on the commissions and number of bets received. So please make sure to check them out, potentially increase that prize pool for my friend Ivan here. Probably not for me.
Yeah, I don't know about that. See, we'll see how we do in the Swiss stage.
Who'd you get paired up for with your second round?
My good pal Andy.
Oh gosh,
So
I thought that was the first round.
No,
yeah, okay.
This will be a fun match.
For the uninitiated, or those that missed the 2v2 rounds, Ivan and Andy played on a team together in the 2v2 co-op of this randomizer, and guys made it all the way to the end and faced some really stiff competition from Wild Anaconda and Alucard. All great races all around, and thanks again for putting on that little bonus show of the hard mode. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that was a wacky seed. We're getting an early Agina check from PantsNeck over here.
Yep, and Oh, unfortunately, we may not be able to see it here. Hopefully his stream catches up a little bit. Not having the morph ball just yet, he'll need to check South Shore, maybe thinking that Gina might have been a smart play there. Unfortunately, not panning out. Yes, that's right. There was a red rupee in Agina's cave. I don't remember though. Did he check the desert ledge while he was out there?
I did not catch that. I thought I saw him walking over from the desert ledge area, but I didn't catch what was on the ledge. Oh man, these mini moleworms.
Yep, definitely Wrath of the Moldworms. Oh, unfortunate for Pansnek, and he's gonna have to go back no matter what to progress in the...
Yeah, really unfortunate. Just waited a little too long to throw that bomb.
SuperNinTaylor now handling his dark rooms in Eastern Palace. PantsNeck, despite getting that death early on, it's something that I think most of us as runners have experienced before. A great deal of frustration, and it puts a little bit of extra pressure on you, but it doesn't lose that much time, maybe 2 minutes or so, which can certainly be made up with a good or a smart or an ambitious check later on. So certainly don't rule PantsNeck out at this point.
Absolutely. I can't count the amount of times that I've died on the way to Ice Rod Cave due to the crabs. Yeah, it's going to cost him a few more bombs, but he really only has the one bomb spot left at Ice Rod Cave for early on here. It's not that big of a deal.
Yep, and like SuperNinTaylor, very smartly managing the number of bombs needed, despite that death, which is fortunately not going to cost him any further time. So that's. He could have even made up some of that time by using the flute to warp to, I think it's 7 or 8 for both of these checks. Might have been enough. Well, maybe. It's kind of a give or take with how long it takes to summon the duck. But speaking of the duck, we've got our second salute coming up in.
And I'm assuming SuperNinTaylor here will be going straight to Death Mountain. Don't believe there's much else for him to do in the overworld.
Yep, and potentially some interesting routing there, or at least non-traditional. He could choose to go up from Upper Norfair and go directly to Kraid, rather than starting in Criteria and doing the, I believe Solsky calls it the meme.
Ooh, getting blocked by that squirrel.
Yeah, all the minor enemies just really giving it to our runners so far. And SuperNinTaylor, I think smartly checking Spectacle Rock in the cave up here, just to get some information and potentially some of those unseen power bombs. And still get nothing. And this is almost looking like, and I think it can actually happen, where power bombs can be considered one of the spheres that you have to.
Wow.
Yeah, so that might be what's going on here. It's pretty rare to see an annoying.
This is crazy. We actually don't even have super missiles yet either.
And yeah, 5 of those are required as well. Oh,
yes, there's back there. This is he's got to be careful here. He can't go in this in the high jump door, or he's going to be soft locked in this room. Yeah, and he does know it.
He is picking up the glove for his troubles, though, so that opens up just a little bit more so far in the light world, heading up into Zora's domain and a couple other small checks there. But really, the Moon Pearl is the next thing they need to come up with for Dark World access.
Sitting down here, he might potentially be going to check Ice Beam, which is out of logic, but he can get to it.
Just so.
Yep.
And Ivan, could you explain to our audience how to mock ball, or what's going on with the mock?
Sure. So normally in that room, you would need the speed booster to get past that second gate. But with a trick we call the mock ball, actually, I'm not sure if he can get out of here. I think he's just doing this for information. But anyway, so normally those gates close on you unless you have the speed booster. But mock balling allows us to maintain our run speed in morph ball. So the way you do it is you're running, you jump, you aim down, and as you are about to hit the ground, you roll from down again to go into morph ball to whatever direction you're moving. So basically like the input for Hadouken. That allows you to maintain your run speed while you are in morph ball.
And you were absolutely right that SuperNinTaylor just checking the Ice Beam item there, which is an interesting informational check, and he very smartly took the save first, knowing full well that without power bombs or regular bombs he would not be able to return. So certainly a very, very potentially trolly seed if you're not careful and not super aware of your inventory.
Definitely. It looks like he's going to take his gloves and go check out the back of Escape here.
PantsNeck checking bomb Chorizo, and must not be confident in his Alcatraz escape, because finding no bombs there, he would have no choice but to escape via Alcatraz or reset, and choosing to take the reset.
I'm a little surprised he's not going up to Gauntlet here. With screw attack, it makes the Gauntlet pretty easy. With 4E tanks, certainly something that wouldn't be too hard to do.
Yeah, some interesting choices in routing here. I think, and perhaps this is a little bit of bias, having played some of the hard mode seeds, you're a little bit more likely to get payout going to green Brinstar, and especially going up through Gauntlet up there to try and find some other items. And it's not as dangerous as long as you have Morph Ball, because without Morph Ball you can still get this kind of stuff in hard logic and have to know how to wiggle.
Yeah.
Certainly one of the banes of my existence. But yeah, so unfortunately, some less than optimal routing may hurt PantsNeck if he continues to not find any power bombs, and the seed has proven so far that it doesn't want to give us any.
Yeah. We will be getting our first look into Retro Brinstar down here, though. So maybe we'll find some power bombs down here. No, but the book is down here.
And that's unusual, so that book would have been in logic in the first sphere there, so, and on NinTaylor's screen, getting to see the Alcatraz escape, very nicely done. So having the book, I don't think would have gained them anything early in the game, so skipping that check, providing no loss.
And the speed boosters down here, too.
That's definitely an excellent pickup, especially, your speed running, you definitely want that extra speed, and in addition to the screw attack offering more movement and potential damage.
Supers in the ceiling and $50 behind the block. So still no power bombs, so we're gonna have to leave the Billy Maze room for later on, which is always unfortunate. I know personally, I do not like coming down to Retro Brinstar without power bombs, just because if I don't find them down there, the Billy Maze room is going to be one of the last things I check, just because it's so far out of the way.
I mean, you know, and I'm thinking that I've made a mistake too, that you could only see the first item in Gauntlet without power bombs or bombs. Is that right? Can you get through the floor?
I believe that is correct, yeah.
And that would explain why SuperNinTaylor is going this way without checking that. Gonna get to see another mock ball from NinTaylor here in the Green Brinstar Reserve. And really unfortunate. Oh, we're gonna get to see a really cool trick. So SuperNinTaylor is going to show us something that you almost never see, which is if you jump and aim downwards as you enter this space, you can use the screw attack to clear this last block and get to this item. So I'm not sure if he's getting the down off on it. So if you do it right, you'll be standing whenever you enter this space.
I did not know this was possible.
Yeah, it's really slick. I hope he gets it. It's something I learned from one of Wild Anaconda's tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
There he got it. Now he just needs to jump and spin. There it is.
That's crazy. That's very cool.
Yeah, excellent job. Unfortunately, not getting the payout for persevering, but some excellent tech that you don't normally get to see, especially in normal difficulty. Excellent. Bravo, NinTaylor.
Yeah, it may not have paid out, but if PantsNeck is not aware of how to do that, then that's just something that he is not going to have information on until later on. May have to come back for it.
And another troll item here. So those super missiles look very tantalizing to NinTaylor, but without bombs, that would be a soft lock for sure.
Yeah, it is possible to quick drop through those blocks and quickly jump back out after picking up the item, but if it's just super missiles, it's really not worth the hassle and the possibility of soft locking.
And that, speaking of that quick drop, we may be able to see that in Mission Impossible room if NinTaylor is feeling super brave. I do believe that high jump boots are required for that escape.
They are, yes. They will need power bombs first, though, just to break through that wall. Oh, we find the Morph Ball bombs in Green Hill Zone.
And that's, again, really interesting not to have any power bombs yet. This seed really forcing our runners to make some unusual routing choices and do some additional backtracking.
It looks like Ice Rod is at the Charge Beam location, so I'm not sure if we need that yet, but...
That's always a great item to have early, given that the Ice Rod can be literally anywhere. It's been the bane of many a... But, with Morph Ball bombs here, we have a couple of interesting options. It is considered a can-fly option for normal logic, meaning that you can access lots of areas out of a normal jump or wall jump's reach, similar to Space Jump. So even X-Ray... X-Ray is probably not in logic, but it's certainly doable.
Yeah, X-Ray shouldn't be in logic with the set they have.
And again, speaking of backtracking and things, I think that Spore Spawn Skip would have been doable for NinTaylor, but so he backtracked a little bit to Charge Beam, but I guess he's probably going to loop that in with Wave Skip.
Yeah, I'm a little curious why he didn't head up there and just get that out of the way now, but yeah, could just go back and do it whenever he does the Wave Gate.
You know, though, and we just saw yesterday in Solski's match that that Spore Skip is that's in logic. I mean, you can get up to Spore Spawn with Morph Ball bombs and everything.
Yeah.
So hopefully that doesn't come back. And PantsNeck got 4 super missiles to give us a chance to take a look.
Ooh, and it looks like SuperNinTaylor actually realized the mistake he was about to make. Actually did this in the seat a couple days ago. He headed up the red tower and got into that spike hallway, and quickly realized, having no power bombs, if he had gone through that door, it would have locked behind him yellow, and he would have been forced to go all the way around to get back into red tower if he didn't get power bombs from the bottom room in red tower.
Speaking of power bombs, paying out
man.
big for PantsNeck. That could be a huge advantage. Given the sheer number of power bomb packs in the seed, I think there's still 50. I think that was unchanged for the randomizer. There are more super missiles, but so SuperNinTaylor still definitely possible to find some more, but right now advantage.
Yeah, it is very possible that those are the only in-logic power bombs right now, though. It'd be very unfortunate for SuperNinTaylor.
Unfortunately, that Kraid check isn't possible without without at least power bombs or X.
I believe Wave would also work. I think you can shoot the item,
point.
but yeah, X-ray, man. I've always been a huge hater of the X-ray scope, just because it messes with my item switching. But for randomizer, it's really nice to have, just for checking stuff in walls, so I don't have to power bomb everything.
And this is the exact reason why. PantsNeck gonna show us how to waterway use the shinespark to do this without the grab. And nicely done on the first try. That's not an easy shinespark. The water physics can kind of screw with you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. PantsNeck is actually going to be able to full clear green Brinstar here, or really Brinstar here, if he chooses to go all the way back, which I assume he will.
And SuperNinTaylor very clearly trying to get a quick kill, but Kraid not cooperating. It looks like maybe SuperNinTaylor is more familiar with the sort of charge beam method of doing. So Kraid skip, essentially what you're trying to do is, on the ground, you want to try and freeze Kraid's mouth open at a certain angle. So he has several angles between where his mouth is closed and open, and if you hit the right one, it'll kind of get stuck there and allow you to fill him up with super missiles, and that's kind of how the trick works.
Looks like we're going to see the wave gate glitch here out of PantsNeck. So he's going to sit in this corner and shoot that super as he jumps up. So when he shoots the super, he's still moving up, and as that super gets to the edge of the screen, that part of the gate that you're supposed to shoot is actually moved onto screen, and the super collides with it right there. So the super basically skips past that gate with the way the camera's moving.
Yeah, it's really crazy. It's literally spawning the gate after the super missile has passed it, but before it hits the top of the room, and it works just perfectly to get that open. Nice job getting it first try for PantsNeck, and again, bravo for pushing this advantage. I wonder what he's thinking. You know, this whole seed has been so stingy with power bombs so far. If maybe he's thinking, I went out of my way to get this, and maybe it's going to be an advantage for me.
Yeah.
And potentially worrisome situation for SuperNinTaylor here, getting a little bit desperate to find those power bombs. So having not found them here at high jump, he may potentially make some really risky plays and try and do some hell runs, or the other choice, which isn't much better, is going all the way back up to the ship and doing some of those gauntlet checks and the power bombs in the sky room up there, which will take a really long time.
Oh man. And PantsNeck finds the bow in the Edekun's area. These early power bombs, or finding those power bombs, definitely paying out.
Yep, and SuperNinTaylor making a decent choice given the situation that they're in, to go back to the ship, refill a little bit, head into Gauntlet, and do that these couple of checks. But unfortunately, it's really looking like the only answer is Spore Skip. 2 days in a row, what the heck?
Yeah, I believe NinTaylor also has Retro Brinstar check. It looked like he was heading down there earlier, and then turned around and decided to head straight to Brinstar instead, which is very unfortunate because the Speed Booster and Boke are both down there.
And SuperNinTaylor dealing with somewhat difficult jumps. So this is one of those tricks that we mentioned that it sort of depends on how practiced you are with high jump boots. I personally find it easier to do these jumps without the high.
Oh yeah, high jump definitely makes this a lot harder.
So what you're seeing here from NinTaylor, folks, is he's going to be trying to do... Oh, he's switching to an infinite bomb jump, but what he was trying to do is what's called a delayed wall jump. So there are actually 8 full frames from when you contact the wall in which you can perform a wall jump, and performing it on the latter end of those 8 frames potentially gives you the separation that you need to get around those sort of obtuse angles there.
Yeah, and with how close those little I don't know what the word is. Getting up those with high jump boots on is a lot more difficult than without them on. Just because when you have high jump boots on, every time you wall jump, it pushes Samus up a lot higher, quicker, than when you have them off. And oh, there are power bombs in the Gauntlet. Holy cow.
Yep, and so, wow, what an incredible confluence of events there. So, NinTaylor delaying that Gauntlet check, just working out in the worst possible way for them. My heart goes out. The silver lining here is that PantsNeck is, in order to do some more efficient checks, spending some time farming power bombs here on Waterway, which, given all of the stuff that he's done so far, it would probably be faster to farm these at Fire Fleas or in Red Brinstar than to do this. Oh, in the Moon Pearl. Oh, wow. And fortune changed so quickly here.
Holy
this is
cow.
Okay. SuperNinTaylor right back in.
Wow. That's a lot of Dark World access.
And man, what an exciting seed. So certainly frustrating for our runners, but you've caught a great one so far, folks. This is really interesting early.
It looks like PantsNeck's going to come through here and clear out the rest of Retro Brinstar. They're going to have to be careful with their power bomb usage here. Definitely need one more to get up to the Billy Mays room. But they're actually, they can check. Okay, yeah. So if they use their problems correctly, they will be able to check both the maze room and the right side shaft in the climb.
And that's a sort of dangerous check still at this stage of the game, but one that PantsNeck may not want to give up.
Yeah.
Given that current speed booster advantage. Looking like they set up the jump correctly. Gets it very nicely, and the bow for SuperNinTaylor. And SuperNinTaylor performing a modified mock ball there, so that room is kind of interesting in that it's so small that you can't really set up for a normal mock ball, and so you have to put in a couple extra inputs to get the speed and the jump height correctly, and only taking 2 or 3 tries is pretty.
Yeah, and you definitely do want to mock ball out of that spot. If you just simply roll out, you will fall all the way down to that next platform that he was jumping up from earlier.
That's an excellent point.
Yes. To get all the way out.
Yeah, so even if you have to perform that or try that mock ball 2 or 3 times, it's worth it compared to doing that full fall, because there's nothing you can do. You're just in morph ball. You can't wall jump until you touch ground.
It looks like PantsNeck is going to do the right side of the climb here. I've definitely been burned by this location before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had mitts here, I've had all kinds of nutty stuff. Now with the screw attack, this is actually a little less dangerous than I thought, because just being able to fly right on through this makes it pretty easy. And PantsNeck doing what I would have done, which is
Very
charging
nice.
your shinespark in the reverse direction and building up the speed to get over there.
Definitely, yeah. It is possible to build up the going to the right there and then damage boosting off of one of those guys. That is definitely a lot harder than what he just did.
And that's one of the things that I love about this randomizer, and it's really embodied by the fact that there are 2 different difficulties here, that there are usually multiple strats, speed strats, some of them that are a little bit easier and some of them that are more advanced, particularly in Super Metroid, that really elevate your game, but also reward you just for getting into it and being a little familiar with them.
Definitely.
And SuperNinTaylor, unfortunately, I think it would have been really great for them to go back down through Blue Brinstar, given I don't think they've even been there yet. Would have gotten a speed booster, and it's probably going to experience some frustration having, when he eventually does go and find it, and not being able to check Waterway here along with it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's where they're headed next. I'd be very surprised if they just head straight up here. Yeah. Like it. And they did also pick up that second power bomb pack from the Spore Spawn super spot, so I'm sure that's eating at them a little bit, because that was available to them as soon as they found the Morphball bombs earlier.
And SuperNinTaylor forgetting to open up the gray door there. If he comes back this way, may have to kill those side hoppers again, which you saw do a considerable amount of damage without anything other than just the. And really here right now, all eyes are kind of on PantsNeck. He's right there on the way to Moon Pearl, and that's really the play that they need to make. But some other tempting options as well, potentially going to wreck ship with the speed boost.
Yeah, we do have full access to wreck ship at this point with this item set.
And PantsNeck's setting up for a fun trick here. It's not time efficient, especially given that they have screw attack, but I don't want to ruin it for you, but it was very intentional for them to go and clear out those blocks and open that door. Get ready, this is a... Or maybe not doing what I thought.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's a really cool trick, and it's a 100% strat that it's just really fun to watch. So there's that big mountain to the right of the Samish's ship there, and if you stand on top of it and have that door open towards the Gauntlet, and then shinespark straight to the left, you will go through the entire Gauntlet in shinespark and not have to screw attack or bomb through any of it.
Yeah, that one's a real crowd pleaser the first time folks see it. And had enough energy tanks to do it and everything too, but it looks like PantsNeck was just worried about potentially getting grabbed by a yapping maw here, and trying to save up some of the energy rather than go for that. And PantsNeck, similar to SuperNinTaylor, finding the gap in those blocks to be able to go down and get both of these sets of crumble blocks at once. It's kind of like a regular brick pattern on your house. You want to stand right on the interface between the two bricks and then jump and shoot downwards, and that'll guarantee you pretty much every time that you'll get both columns at once.
A little unfortunate for SuperNinTaylor here. They actually took a spike hit in the room before the Billy Mays room, so they're a little low on health. They may have to skip this the right side of this climb here. And it looks like they're just going to spark straight up and get to the top of the climb. Yeah, that's going to be something that's just sitting in the back of their head the entire match now.
Yep. I may have, personally in that situation, just gone and checked the item only because screw attack was available. If screw attack wasn't available, I might have done the same thing that NinTaylor did. Yeah. But that information is really important. And so, unfortunately, SuperNinTaylor are not going to have that until later. But maybe they're making the gamble here that I've got Moon Pearl, I've got a sword, I've got Dark World access. Maybe it's time to head back to A Link to the Past. Meanwhile, PantsNeck making the other choice and actually faking me out. I thought he was going to go to Red Ship.
Yeah, so did I.
But gonna check Red Brinstar here, and with only 4 energy tanks, Phantoon could potentially be a little bit trolly if you're not practiced enough there. But with the speed booster and the screw attack, that would have been some optimal routing to get that out of the way right now.
Definitely, yeah.
And then to take this route, the Red Brinstar route, come down, clear out Kraid, head to Upper Norfair, and go. And some little tidbits, some of the little things that maybe you don't notice that give you an insight as to what's going on in the runners' heads here. So SuperNinTaylor's already skipped a couple of pieces of heart, but right there up in that room, picking up the full heart container. And that's one of those things that I think starts to define you as a mid-level to high-level randomizer runner, is when you start to say, heart pieces aren't really worth it. They kind of slow down the game, maybe one, but they're too willy-nilly to try and time a health refill or anything. They end up just taking more time than they're worth in a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm. We did see PantsNeck pick up the mushroom in the back of that early power bomb room.
And so PantsNeck's not going to know it yet, but with the glove coming up, that's actually, you don't need the glove to turn that in, but that's potentially... I don't think it's likely that that will lead to progression, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah, at this point, I would definitely hold on to that mushroom. And they will probably get the glove before heading back to Lake Past. Looks like they're going to be heading towards Kraid and then probably down into Dorfair to check all that stuff. But with the amount of options they have or are going to have in Link to the Past, and what they can still do in Super Metroid, I would definitely save that mushroom, hoping to find the cane and then do the fake powder glitch before turning in that mushroom.
Now, SuperNinTaylor, heading into the Phantoon fight here, probably going to get to see a technique known as the Doppler. Am I right?
Probably, yeah, without Charge Beam. Not sure how comfortable he is doing like full Doppler stuff, but we will definitely be seeing just normal missile kill.
Yep, so SuperNinTaylor showing us a little bit of the Doppler strategy here. It's so shooting Phantoon with super missiles, as you may well know from a vanilla run, causes Phantoon to enrage. But shooting him with just missiles, 2 at a time, does not enrage him. So they're going to do 2 sets of 2, and then when Phantoon goes off the screen and comes back on, they're going to compress the missiles by moving right and shooting at the same time, and trying to get a bunch of hits in before Phantoon phases out again.
You gotta be really careful here. 2 more hits from these flames will kill them. Taking a little bit more damage than I'd probably like to have. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was brave. I would have gone with the safe screw attack there, but SuperNinTaylor, wowza.
Good thing is they will be getting health bombed here. If you're below 30 health when you kill a boss, all the health drops will end, or all the boss drops will end up being health. They're doing just fine on ammo, so health is definitely what they were looking to get from that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. That could have been a potential sticking point had SuperNinTaylor not had bombs or enough power bombs, is that if you get health bombs, sometimes you can get really stuck in the wrecked ship and have to and get soft locked or have to do a reset. But fortunately, as you mentioned, ammo not being a problem. And both are runners, probably flush with cash at this point. Definitely going to be some Zora checks in the near future.
Oh man, he's getting really low. He accidentally ran into some spikes there. These spikes do, I believe, 60 damage without any suits. So we'll definitely be hoping to find an E-Tank here fairly shortly.
Yeah. And SuperNinTaylor deciding to forego that, I think I might have still gone for it. I think the sparks do 5 to 10 damage in Power Suit, not as much as spikes do. Sparks, not spikes. I realize I've chosen poor vernacular there, but maybe they'll come back if they really feel like it. But setting up for the save scum here, definitely going to give them a measure of safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so SuperNinTaylor here is going to attempt to get through what we call it's like the death room or something. I forget what we call it. But this next room is going to be in is absolutely terrible. There's spikes everywhere. There's spike platforms that drop on you and do double damage. So it's just very dangerous. And even if it wasn't dangerous, it's still good to set that save up, because this is just a long trek to get to one item, and if it's nothing, you can just reset and be back on their way, you know. don't have to worry about what was in there.
Yep, and SuperNinTaylor's safety save definitely proving safe. So I know the room before the spike platforms is called Sponge Bath, I believe, but I don't remember what the room with all the spike platforms actually is.
I've always just called it the death room.
Epi saying Spiky Death Room.
Yeah.
But Sponge Bath is interesting here, and because there's a couple different things going on here, a couple of different ways to get through it without Gravity Suit. So having Speed Booster certainly gives you enough speed to get up there, and having high jump boots, SuperNinTaylor is showing us that it can be done in a single bound. But without high jump boots, you would need to do a wall jump there after getting a little speed.
Ooh.
Getting greedy.
Needed to be a little more patient there. Yeah, so the spike platforms, when they drop on you with just the power suit, will do 100 damage. It's just a little unfortunate that he decided not to wait for that platform to drop.
Yep, Spiky Death Room earning its moniker today. Oh, and Shovel at Old Man. I didn't realize when SuperNinTaylor picked that up, but that's one additional check that we haven't seen.
I don't think SuperNinTaylor actually did the Old Man. I don't remember seeing them go through.
You're right, that might be possible.
Yeah, at this point, NinTaylor's really hoping that this is going to be an item he wants to pick up.
I don't know. I might almost hope that it's not an item you want, because if it is an item you want, then not only do you have a... Yeah, you have to go back, and this is not a trivial jump.
Ooh. It looks like it'll be fine. Man. Ooh. Falling in this room is so scary. Yeah, this is another instance of turning off Speed Booster here would be very helpful. Ooh, E-Tank. Yeah, it looks like they're just going to decide not worth it to do the rest of the ship with just what I have. I'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, if he had gotten that jump, maybe, but not having gotten that jump, probably just going to abandon. And I don't know. I think SuperNinTaylor's power bomb count is still just 10 max, but potentially if they find another power bomb, could set up a crystal flash and maybe save their bacon, especially having the morph ball bombs and the speed boost.
SuperNinTaylor here trying to clip through the ceiling here.
Now losing a lot more time than it's worth. So is this another instance where you have to kind of aim down and get yourself standing up in the ceiling, or how does
no, for this one's super simple. You can even just hold angle up and then just spin jump into that, or on top of that first block, and just jump straight through. What I believe NinTaylor was doing, and what a lot of people, what I see a lot of people try and do, is just spin jump into it and hit angle up to try and stop yourself on the block. But you can really just hold angle up and just spin jump into it. It makes it a lot more simple.
So, how did you get your start in this randomizer, Ivan? Did you come from a traditionally Super Metroid background or ALTTP, or did Andy just say one day, "Hey, get in here, I need a..."
I started running Super Metroid back in 2013, and I picked up A Link to the Past, I think, sometime in 2014. But really, Super Metroid, it's had a randomizer for a long time, but it really has never been very interesting in terms of routing. That's something I really liked about the A Link to the Past randomizer, even when it first started and for what it's become today. It's just there's a lot more. It's a lot more complex than Super Metroid is. But even with the most recent iterations of the Super Metroid Randomizer, it always just seems like there's two basic options for you, and there's not really much deviation. But with A Link to the Past combined in, I think it makes it a lot more interesting. And it did look like that was Bombos at the reserve tank and wreck ship.
Yeah, I saw that it was one of the medallions, but I wasn't sure which one. Good catch. But yeah, that's really interesting. I never, I did a little bit of the Super Metroid Randomizer, and I think I got bored with it for the same reason that you mentioned, is that it doesn't have enough diversity on its own, but really being combined with the A Link to the Past Randomizer really gives it a lot of options. To make it much more interesting. And I think SuperNinTaylor was going for a Crystal Flash there, but needs to be under 50 health with nothing in their reserves.
Yep.
And Hype Cave not producing a whole lot of hype on PantsNeck's side, picking up the cane there for a little extra safety, but NinTaylor, having found the cape, kind of brings them back to parity.
And Taylor going to be coming up here to check the pyramid item. Might possibly go check Catfish before heading to Pod, I would assume. Would be their next play. But Catfish is pretty far out of the way, and without the mirror being able to loop in Zora with that, I would assume that they'll just head straight to Pod.
It's funny you mentioned that. That's exactly what burned me in week 1. So I was playing Aussie, and I had a potion, so I opted to go to Pod first and potion glitch. And Aussie went to Trollfish and ended up picking up the bow off of Trollfish.
Oh,
and I was like, man, you just can't win something. And it was ironic a little bit, I guess, because the mirror was in Pod, so it was just the worst kind of way. Because as soon as I went out and got it, I was like, well, there went all of the advantage I had.
And it looks like PantsNeck is going to head up here to Catfish instead of Pod.
So SuperNinTaylor has finished farming up, wanted to get enough health here to cross Bowling Alley.
Yeah, again, these spikes do 60 damage, and you're looking to take at least 3 hits on the way there.
And SuperNinTaylor doing something that I usually forget to do, and clearing out some of the bombable blocks here before getting in, before taking a water break. Especially given that they are armed with the knowledge that they're going to have to go up to the reserve tank.
It looks like we did miss PantsNeck picking up the Master Sword. I'm not sure where that came from.
Commodore is saying Dark Cross Room, and I have no reason to doubt Commodore other than they're in the hospital hopped up on drugs.
Ooh, space jump. Wow.
And Wreck Ship being pretty tame, but paying out in the end for SuperNinTaylor.
See, what if it was Bombos? Okay.
Looking like... Oh, PantsNeck's gonna give us a ped check. Everybody get your ped hype emotes in...
I'm not sure. I don't believe NinTaylor checked the item in the ocean before heading into Wreck Ship, so we'll probably see that here. Oh, that's Quake. They might actually need that.
Wow, that's an interesting ped.
We could have a pedestal seat on our hands.
So what do we got here? We we have knowledge of 2 pendants. That's Eastern and Skullwoods. So it's guaranteed that either Mire or Turtle Rock will be required, and potentially either one of those could require Quake to.
Oh yeah, it looks like we did actually get a Dark World check, a map check at some point, because it looks like Turtle Rock is the other pendant. So it's all going to depend on Mire. If Mire needs Quake, then I believe that's the only way we'll need Pedestal.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the other. Oh yeah, you're right, because yeah, if Quake is on Ped, then Quake cannot possibly be the requirement for Turtle Rock. Duh. Thank you for jumping to that conclusion before my brain got.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Mire is going to be Quake. Just because we already have the Ice Rod. I think that's what's going to happen.
So, I saw something interesting yesterday, Ivan. Perhaps you can illuminate it for me. I was running a 10.1 seed, and I fought Pendant Blind, and Blind's message to me was Misery Mire requires either Bombos or Quake, I think it was. So is that part of the hint system that's in, or is that a joke that I horribly forgot and mistranslated?
I have no idea. As far as I know, hints are not in place yet. So I have no clue.
I may have to dig that seed up and make sure I'm not crazy.
PantsNeck having a little trouble setting up this bomb jump, but taking a death here is not too terrible. He's going to end up right in the same room.
Thank you, Commodore. I get the joke now. It's not either. It's either Bombos or Quake. Oh, Total, you had some fun with me today.
PantsNeck is, ooh, unfortunate. Yeah, this statue room is it can get a little out of control when these Gibdos start walking all over the place.
Yep, and PantsNeck's going into this knowing, 1, that Skull Woods is a pendant, and 2, that they don't have the fire rod, so not going to be able to completely do all of the checks. Meanwhile, SuperNinTaylor goes down and heals up, and I was thinking when they healed up, oh, they're going to check X-ray, they're tired of being burned by stupid stuff, and they're going to go get this out of the way. But I'm not sure what SuperNinTaylor is picking up that energy for.
Believe they're probably heading. I'm not sure if they ever did the waterway after picking up speed and retro Brinstar.
You're probably right, and they've also got Shaft Supers to check too.
Yeah, it looks like waterway is the plan.
And L. Violi pointing out that SuperNinTaylor does have space jump, so there was really no good reason to skip over X-Ray there.
Oh yeah, X-Rays and logic there.
PantsNeck showing us the semi-vanilla route, doing a little bit of edge walking there. Does that make them an edgelord? Probably not. Rather than doing the bomb jump. Trying to bomb jump back, and unfortunately not quite getting it.
Yeah, so you mentioned before, PantsNeck is willingly going into Pendant Skullwoods here, knowing that even if it is a pendant, still can't complete it without the fire rod. But it is very possible to find the 2 items that are in Skullwoods in the front of it and never have to go in the back. So I'm assuming that's what they were hoping for.
PantsNeck taking an intentional death this time for a little bit of a health refill, probably before going into Thieves Town, of which they have the absolute capability of full.
I'm very jealous that they rolled a Crystal Thieves Town.
Yeah, I know. Man, I used to hate Thieves Town. Thieves Town vanilla was pretty gross. Not speedrunning or anything, but in pretty much any other sense, once you realize that you can get a tempered sword early and all this other stuff that, kind of leads you on the way to speedrunning Link to the Past, Thieves Town suddenly becomes a lot more desirable, and that's also true in Randomizer. 4 relatively easy chests, and all you really need is a set of gloves and possibly the hammer to full clear it.
Looks like SuperNinTaylor might actually be skipping the right shaft here again.
Very unusual. Thankfully, we know that there's nothing required there, but I'll certainly want to ask them that about this when it's over. And PantsNeck picking up the lantern, Embalmable Hut, no more dark rooms for them, and putting a lot of different little things into the normal line. And I'm forgetting, is lamp required for logic in hard mode still? I'm thinking they want to change that.
I have no idea.
I'm fairly sure, at least in previous iterations, that hard logic still required lamp for some stuff, and you still kind of found it early. But I'm not sure that will stay that way forever. There's a lot of intricacies to lamp, given its requirement for an Aghanim 1 seed, that sometimes when you see an early lamp, you kind of get that itch on the back of your neck, like, oh crap, it could be an Aga seed. And it personally, at least for me, would be nice in hard mode seeds to say, I may never see lamp, and that's totally fine with me because that means I don't have crappy Dark World access.
Yeah.
Raziel telling us that lamp is always, quote, required in Link to the Past logic. So definitely a stepping stone logic-wise, but probably not a deal-breaker for either of our runners. So far, both of them proving that they can do some dark, at the very least.
We're gonna get a stumpy check here, and it's the charge beam. Very nice find.
So now our two runners about to cross paths here in a little bit. So it seems like PantsNeck has taken sort of the anti-clockwise route in going around, and SuperNinTaylor going clockwise. Tell me, what did they just find? I was too busy talking.
That was the hook shot in the digging game.
Hookshot being an excellent movement item, and putting them, nope, still 2 items away from Swamp Palace. I think Swamp Palace has like the highest number of item requirements of almost any dungeon, except for maybe Turtle.
Yeah, there's definitely quite a few, but that hookshot will give SuperNinTaylor East Death Mountain access, and access to Hera.
And SuperNinTaylor choosing to turn in the mushroom here, only getting bombs for it. And, you know, I've actually seen some players, and it's something that I've never been in a position to do for, but taking a hard reset after turning in that mushroom just to preserve the possibility of fake powdering.
Right, yeah.
Might have been the thing to do in this case. We'll see. You know, it's always the things that you don't think are gonna burn you, those one-item things that end up doing it. Yeah. So hopefully not the case for NinTaylor.
Looks like NinTaylor's also about to check the pedestal, so they will know that Quake is there as well. And they'll just be hoping.
And Kuchiri checking in, one of our other very frequent commentators, letting us know that, in fact, Hammer was on Mushroom turn-in last night. So,
yeah, I believe in my first round, our Mushroom was very suit. So.
And SuperNinTaylor getting the information that Quake is in fact at Pedestal, probably hoping that that turns out to be a non-issue. And I'm loving that flavor text. It reminds me of Big Trouble in Little China a little bit. I wonder if Total is a fan.
Could be.
And PantsNeck showing us the chest, the only chest that Hammer is required for here in Thieves Town, and going to be heading up to finish the clear with the blind fight here. Doing a little bit weak on health, but we'll see if they opt for some cane strats for safety.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they do have the blue cane. It makes that fight pretty trivial. So I would assume they can take one hit before they're actually in a lot of danger. They might try and do what they can before taking that hit.
And PantsNeck in a little bit of danger here, but looks like he's going to manage okay.
Yeah.
So, here's a question that I don't know the answer to. Oh! Wow. Very nice. PantsNeck picking up the glove, the glove upgrade to the Titan's mitts, and that's very convenient placement. Gonna open up a couple extra checks for them here in Dark Kakariko.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was going to ask, do you think the cane works similarly to the cape, where you can grab a hold of a wall and keep your magic from draining?
I don't believe so, but I'm not sure.
I don't think so either.
Looks like PantsNeck's gonna head over here and pick up their hook shot as well. I'm sure Charge Beam will be just behind that. And SuperNinTaylor actually deciding to skip doing Skullwoods early on. We'll see if they go back after Thieves Town. But if not, it would definitely save them some time, knowing that it is just the green pendant.
And PantsNeck doing a little bit of smart routing here. I don't think you can do the digging game with the frog following you, which is something that a mistake that I make very commonly.
Yeah, you definitely cannot.
So I imagine PantsNeck doing a bit of a world tour coming up here. Gonna turn in the dwarf swordsmith or breadsmith, you know, potato, taking care of some of these hammer pegs, and then heading into the forest for those checks, and then who knows?
Yeah, this is usually a pain to do without the mirror, but there have been seeds where I've definitely seen the mirror be on smiths or Gary's lunchbox. Definitely having the flute, though, makes this a little bit easier.
So let's see here. We're about due for some more progression here. Although we now have the flute and the mitts, so we could potentially get some information on Meyer pretty shortly.
And we also do have full dark and light Death Mountain access. And that is a lot of items up there.
Also, having the lamp, probably want to loop Hera in with those checks as well. That seems like a good routing choice.
I think, knowing that Quake is on Pedestal and having the mitts and the flute, I would definitely go straight to Meyer just to check if it's required. Be very good to know early on.
I'm going to take a moment to go ahead and plug the runners here today, PantsNeck and SuperNinTaylor. Make sure you check them out. I've posted their Twitch channels in chat for you. Also, the wonderful Epi doing a great job tracking for us. Thank you very much, Epi. And of course, I'm Sinus, joined by Ivan today, commentating for you.
Looks like PantsNeck is going to head straight to East Death Mountain.
Now, SuperNinTaylor only has the fighter the fighter sword for the blind fight, showing us very deftly done. But blind is a unique boss in that it doesn't matter what you hit them with, the hammer, the gold sword, the fighter sword, they all do the same damage. It's 9 hits, 3 per phase. So Thieves Town, probably another reason why Ivan and I are a fan of it as Crystal Dungeons. Just the amount of equipment is not as stringent a requirement as lots of other Dark World palaces.
Absolutely. PantsNeck, interesting here. Coming straight down Spiral Cave first. Opted to skip doing all of... what is that place called? Paradox Cave.
Yeah, I guess there's not really a wrong answer here, given that they also have the mitts for Dark World access, because you can get it from the top or the bottom. So not going to end up being too big of a deal, but certainly in optimizing your routing, you may or may not want to change or rearrange the order of those in other situations.
Yeah, and it looks like he's just going to head straight into Paradox and probably do Hera after, and then head over and warp into the Dark World.
That makes sense, given that we haven't found the mirror yet.
And Taylor does have his mitts. He's going to bring the smith back to his house, and then see where they go from there. Hoping to see some kind of Meyer play. Very curious as to what medallion we need for that.
There's also a couple loose checks there to do as well that may or may not prove fruitful. It's still kind of nebulous as to what the logic is trying to tell our runners to do, but I would certainly say that Pod has got to be on that list soon. They've got enough to full clear. And that's 5 items too. That's a worthwhile check after getting some of these dense overworld checks.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're trying to hold out for the mirror before going into Pod, just so they can do the Armos item check afterwards if they want to. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I think Pod may be one of the smart plays. And we are definitely still suitless for Super Metroid, so there's not a whole lot they can do there either besides Taylor being able to get to the X-ray scope location.
Rutzors, we definitely did check Ped. It's going to be a Quake at Ped Seed. And Amazing Ampharos, I think PantsNeck has smartly elected to run Paradox Cave in a way that they will end up at the top of Death Mountain before heading to Hera here. So, hasn't forgotten just yet.
Yeah, they already are in the Dark World, though. And without the mirror,
good point,
they're going to have to save and quit and then go all the way back up the east side of Death Mountain. We'll see our medallion required for Turtle Rock here, which is Bombos. So if we do have Quake on Meyer, then PantsNeck will need to do direct ship to get that Bombos medallion.
Yeah, Bombos is not something you want to see there, and PantsNeck picking up the silver arrow is going to make for an easy Ganon fight later.
And the worst beam. Oh no.
Meme beam. If only you could, close that chest back up.
Just toss it right back in. Leave it for someone else to find.
But yeah, Bombos definitely not what you want to be seeing at Turtle Rock right now. That would give me that feeling in the pit of my stomach. Oh no, I may have to.
This is interesting. PantsNeck just opting away from Tower of Hera here. They also had the option to check the Ether Tablet as well, but it looks like they're going to head back towards the Eastern Pod area. And looks like do Eastern first and then transition to Dark World with that warp. Or flute straight to the warp, maybe. Oh no! Okay. We're gonna see what Meyer needs.
Ampharos, Spazer is a non-trivial damage buff. It's just so incredibly overshowered by the plasma beam that very frequently it's still outshot.
It's Quake!
Oh, we have a Ped Seed, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, and Various was in Tower of Hera.
Oh, that really opens up this seed, and not in a good way. Get your Ped hype in chat.
Holy cow. Oh, and PantsNeck's actually gonna head into Lower Norfolk here to see what Gold Terizo's hiding. It's certainly not a bad play. I'm sure they'll go into the Gold Terizo room to see what these two items are, and then just reset. They don't have the various suits, so it's probably not going to... Oh my god!
Oh, disgusting!
That is terrible! Holy cow! That is an awful placement.
This may be the worst seed of the tournament. It's certainly in the run.
Gravity at DT, where you're required to sit through that cutscene to the lava draining. That is... Oh, man. And by logic, they're gonna be required to go through Meyer to get that. They're gonna have to go all the way around.
Oh, that is just monstrous.
Wow.
So SuperNinTaylor having a slight edge here, having the space jump, having some of those extra requirements already knocked out, and now picking up the Pegasus. Loaded Hera.
Wow.
Space jump was at the just under bowling alley. Yep, so if you're just joining us, folks, man, this seed has been feast or famine, and mostly famine.
It's something else, man.
No power bombs early on, and now we've got a required Ped seed with required Quake, and space jump required for gravity. The only check, to my knowledge, that space jump is required for. And
I believe so.
Yeah, and it being gravity is just a double slap in the face, because there's no in-logic way to get to Upper Norfair without the gravity suit. Of course, you could do a lava dive. There's numerous ways to get around it, and we may see some of our runners attempt that in hopes to optimize some of their routing.
It's like PantsNeck's having a little trouble getting this short charge. It is possible to just jump across these platforms. They just need to be, the jumps need to be cut short a little bit, so they're not full height.
Another place where high jump potentially gives you a little bit of an issue. They could also use the next room over. I wouldn't go that way though, because otherwise you're gonna have to redo the moat. But yeah, I think you could even do this short charge with just a delayed first press, I think.
It looks like they're just gonna opt to take off the high jump boots and make this a lot easier.
PantsNeck probably thanking their lucky stars for screw attack right now. Otherwise, that Ripper would have totally ruined their. SuperNinTaylor picking up the silver arrows and the spazer beam.
Yes, PantsNeck going through right ship here will end up picking up bombos and space jump, and we'll know that, you know, at least I found the space jump, and I can get to gravity suit once I find Varia. But skipping out on Hera early there may come back to bite him.
So our Death Mountain plays doing a very nice job at illustrating the difference in skill at sort of optimizing their routing between these runners. So SuperNinTaylor has routed in absolutely everything on Death Mountain that was possible here, including Hera. They also checked the tablet despite not having the Master Sword, and I believe it said that a super missile was there. But also going so far as to get this one-off check in Spike Cave too, really leaving nothing to chance.
Looks like NinTaylor is actually going to head to the Mire area as well. So both our runners will know that this is a pedestal seed. Oh, no, he's going to head into desert first. And this is actually something that's been in logic since the start of the game, since we did find the book on the Morph Ball spot. But having boots now is guaranteed that NinTaylor will be able to finish this dungeon.
Well, it's been partially in logic for a long time, but it also requires the gloves and the lamp as well, or a fire source of some sort. And really, the lamp, we only just found it in Dark Kakariko recently. So, but certainly, SuperNinTaylor reading that item density and logic and saying, "Hey, I can knock this out real quick since I'm going to be here anyway." And especially having the Pegasus boots makes this a more attractive check.
PantsNeck taking out Phantoon with the last super missile there.
And both of our runners going extremely low health against Phantoon. And Pharos again pointing out interesting point that SuperNinTaylor also has these silver arrows, which will be a great aid.
Oh, very nice.
And that right there is why nobody likes Spazer. So,
oh man, they also do have the required items to start microwaving bosses too. And I believe Dragon and Phantoon are the only two that they can do it to at this point. But
yeah, so let's think about this a little bit. This may be one of those seeds where they don't touch Meridia until the very, very end, and may end up skipping the vast majority of it, and we may get to see the Dark World Meridia entrance because
yeah.
You would like Spazer, HK.
Nobody actually likes Spazer.
Alright, since SuperNinTaylor is just going to be picking up some keys and on their way to Lamulus here, and PantsNeck's retreading some old ground, I'd like to remind you that Vi.gg has put up some money for this tournament. $400 at stake for the top prize, possibly more, depending on the number of commissions and bets placed. So check them out if you haven't. I do think that that you can't do it in the US.
PantsNeck taking this room very carefully.
SuperNinTaylor picking up the Desert Palace Crystal here, raising their crystal count to 3, and 2 bosses in Super Metroid, to PantsNeck's 2 bosses and 1 crystal.
It looks like that is actually both of the 5 and 6 crystals from Desert and Hera, so we do have access to the Pyramid Fairy as well.
Oh no! Get out of there, PantsNeck!
Ooh, should be okay here.
And were I PantsNeck here, I may empty my reserves manually here, just because you take double damage, or rather you take damage twice. Once you do fatal damage, and once when your reserves are done filling. So it may just be a safer.
Got NinTaylor coming down to the King's Tomb. Just a missile pack.
PantsNeck also going to do the same reset that SuperNinTaylor did. That energy tank, not quite tantalizing enough for them. And SuperNinTaylor continuing to make some of those new checks, so having the Pegasus boots going to go ahead and knock out King's Tomb, as we mentioned, along with Bonkrux. Hopefully looking for anything that may lead them to the next step in the logic to try and give them a clue as to where to go. As we mentioned, Pod and Eastern definitely completable by these folks now, but slightly less optimal without the mirror.
And I'm seeing a question in chat about the finishing, how finishing both games is going to work with having access to a game after you finish it. So if you complete Link to the Past first, after you step into the Triforce room after killing Ganon, it will just put you back on top of the pyramid, and you're free to roam around the world and transfer back to Super Metroid. And if you complete Super Metroid first, it'll put you into the escape sequence, but at a certain point, it will... the escape sequence will basically stop, I believe, once you get back to the climb, and you're free to roam around Super Metroid again. So there's no worry of finishing a game early and not being able to get items from that game again. And it looks like SuperNinTaylor is going to be heading towards Pod here. Oh no, yeah, no, he's instead going to be going to the Pyramid Fairy. Never mind. And I'm not sure. I don't believe NinTaylor actually did the pyramid check or catfish either. So we might see them go up there. PantsNeck's gonna see that this is in fact Bombos, which will be required.
I like this play by SuperNinTaylor to bring the large bomb to Great Pyramid Fairy, as Ivan mentioned, just opened up as of completing Desert Palace. So this is going to be a really nice wrap into Pod.
Absolutely.
And I was just thinking, you know, I wonder what the Great Fairy will give for a bottle gift, and then realizing that we have not seen a bottle for an hour and 40.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's crazy. So SuperNinTaylor is going to head into Pod. With that Variosuit, though, all of Norfair is now accessible through the with the Mire Warp open. So that's definitely going to be probably something they do shortly after this if no progression comes from Pod.
PantsNeck doing a similar farm to SuperNinTaylor in farming up some health for the bowling alley jumps here. Big key right away for SuperNinTaylor and Pod, and now Pod is it's a very interesting dungeon. There's a lot of optimized movement and tricks in it, and in particular, the key logic is somewhat complex compared to lots of the other dungeons in A Link to the Past. And I'll be the first to admit that I don't fully understand it, but some of our other commentators have really picked up on it and were able to predict where the remaining 3 keys in Pod were one time. All I can really look at and say is, if I get all 5 items, then I know where the rest of everything is. But that's as good as it gets for me.
You know, I'm the same way with Pod. I think I have a little bit of knowledge of how Mire works sometimes, but yeah, I have no clue for Pod. And no, I do not believe NinTaylor actually checked the Mire area after completing Desert. So they are still not aware that this is a Pedestal seed.
SuperNinTaylor getting the bonk here for that chest. That's always a neat one the first time. Also gonna snipe this this color changing crystal. And so, as we were kind of mentioning about the key logic here, this may have influenced SuperNinTaylor's decision, if they know more than I do about the key logic, to say, I don't want to go check those other 2 chests in the largest room. I have 2 keys. I'm going to go check these, and that may be it. He may already know what the other 2 chests contain. I'm not sure.
It is possible. And if those are both keys, then these are the only 2 small keys that they will need to complete this dungeon. They do the bomb jump. But it looks like there is not 2 small keys in the front of the pod.
Yeah, I think one of them always has to be a key so that you don't lock yourself, because of the way that the front or the side doors open or something. So I know that much, and SuperNinTaylor trying for the hammer jump there. That's a very precise trick, one that I don't personally know, and especially with the crumbling bridge there, it just adds a lot of the pressure to it, and it's not one that I can...
Yeah, it looked like they got the first bomb placement right, and then they forgot that they actually opened up that hole in the wall earlier. They dropped another bomb and picked it up and realized, oh, that hole's already open. By that time, the first bomb was about to explode, so it didn't really have much time to set up where they were positioned for the bomb jump. So a little unfortunate there, but ends up getting it second try pretty easily.
And picking up the first bottle of the day for their trouble. Potentially something interesting there. Certainly the trend of the seed has been that kind of nonsense. Taking an intentional death in lieu of the mirror as well. Possibly some smart moves there by SuperNinTaylor.
So I believe here that there is an item in the vanilla big key chest, since everything has to be accessible. There's only 1 small key remaining, and it can't be... I guess it can be up here. Or... maybe it can, I don't know. I don't know the logic well enough. I guess it can be.
Yeah, I think these 2 checks go together in terms of keys.
Maybe I just miscounted keys completely.
Yeah, so I don't think SuperNinTaylor opened the... Nope, they opened the first door. They must have skipped one of the doors in the back.
Yeah, they definitely skipped
also
the door of the dark maze. Yeah,
and then also there's one you need on the way to Helmasaur. So those are the... Yeah, so I can tell you what all those keys are for. I just couldn't possibly tell you which chest they were in. That's some sorcery right there.
Yeah, so if Nintaylor had counted those keys properly, they could have gone back down the right side of pod and completely skipped those 2 chests.
Our 2 runners now, almost mirror images of each other in the light and dark world, in the sort of sister palaces of...
And PantsNeck, knowing that this is a pedestal seed, is just going to opt to do Eastern first here. Gonna have to do it anyway. And there is an item on the Armos Knights, so we will see if this ends up being important. Just a blue rupee.
Yep, so I certainly think we're going to be looking at a 200+ item check for this seed.
Yeah, almost certainly. And unless Helmasaur has some progression here, I'm thinking that we're going to see Nintaylor head back into Super Metroid pretty shortly.
Oh my!
Wow.
exactly where you don't want it to be.
Yeah. I mean, that is, man, that's... PantsNeck may feel a little upset about that, just because they decided to do Eastern first. And then Taylor can actually just mirror straight into Eastern from finishing Palace of Darkness. That's not too big of a time loss there, but it certainly is more convenient to have that there. Oh, and actually, oh no.
Yep, SuperNinTaylor are gonna kick themselves too.
Never checked if this was Quake or not.
Double mirror troll, what does it mean?
And now they know. Could have just finished Eastern while you were there.
Yeah, so that's a pretty disgusting location for Mirror. There's only one or two worse ones that I can really think of. Certainly finding Hammer in that first chest in Swamp Palace is pretty nasty too, but yeah, just this seed has been horrendously unkind to these runners.
And yeah, both our runners are aware that this is a pedestal seed. And looks like SuperNinTaylor may be looking to head into Lower Norfair. Going to be good for them. Find out where that gravity suit is. And certainly with Plasma and Charge Beam, I would assume that they would just go straight into the Gold Teresa room. Even if they didn't have Charge Beam, they definitely have enough supers at this point.
I'm pretty sure that SuperNinTaylor has Charge Beam as well.
Yeah, they both do.
And turning on Plasma, this is a neat strategy for Golden Teresa. At least I hope that they use. So if you actually want to be kneeling with both of your shoulder buttons pressed here, and you'll notice, if you are keen to see, that some of the hits that SuperNinTaylor shoots are going to hit Golden Teresa twice, because Plasma Beam hits on every frame, and Golden Teresa's iframes are such that you can get 2 shots in many cases. And it makes it a lot faster than using super missiles because of how, frankly, douchey Golden Teresa is about super missiles.
And he sees his gravity suit is up there as well.
But SuperNinTaylor, now being in a really strong position, having Space Jump and Varia immediately upon getting that information, is going to be a huge boon.
Yeah, PantsNeck is going to have to go back up to Hera to get the Varia suit before they can get their gravity suit still.
Delta function. Microwave does not, unfortunately, work on some bosses, including Golden Teresa. Those same iframes that only allow SuperNinTaylor to get 2 hits on Golden Teresa is the same reason you can't microwave Golden Teresa. Whereas if you were looking at something like Crocomire, who can take damage on almost every frame, a single plasma shot will do the Croc in.
I've never tried to. I'd never actually tried to microwave Gold Teresa before, but I mean, because the X-ray scope essentially resets iframes, and that's the reason that that the microwave works on Dragon and Phantoon and Boss Moon. So logically it should work against Gold Teresa, but I have never tried it before, and I don't know if it actually does or doesn't.
Okay, well that brings up an interesting point. Why wouldn't it work against Ridley then as well, by the same sort?
Well, Ridley, the plasma shots don't actually go through Ridley. It stops
okay.
when they hit Ridley. Does, but Micro and GT feels weird, not as effective as other bosses. Yeah, I've wondered about that, because even in a category like GT Classic, where you use the GT code to essentially get every item in the game by entering Gold Teresa's room backwards and holding all the face buttons down, we still would just charge Plasma Ice Wave to kill Golterizo instead of using the X-ray scope. So it must not be very effective.
That was a really clean lava pillar room for SuperNinTaylor. Getting just the right space jumps and screw attacks in there made that room look really, really clean. Nice.
Just a little heart container in the Mickey Mouse room.
And now SuperNinTaylor pretty much has everything they need to fully complete Super Metroid, aside from a couple small, odd checks that nobody wants to do. Shack tool. So hopefully the worst of this seed is over for SuperNinTaylor, and they can just go and clear bosses and pick up a couple items that are on the way before getting back to A Link to the Past.
I believe Taylor is really only looking for the Fire Rod and the Red Cane. Ice Beam would be nice to have, but it's certainly not required since you can powerbomb Metroids to death.
I'm also going to need the flippers for Swamp.
That is true.
This could get really gross. Like, it could be... They could find Cane and Fire Rod, go complete Skullwoods and Turtle Rock, then get Quake, go to Mire, and finally find Flippers before finally being able to do Swamp Palace. The combinations for this are just potentially astoundingly awful.
Honestly, I think I'd be okay with that if it means I could just get to go mode Swamp Palace and Ice Palace.
That is like the only silver lining to that. But I guess the good fortune part of that then is that our runners are going to have to find Fire Rod and Cane before even starting Misery and potentially Skullwoods as well. So.
And then Taylor here is opting to kill Ridley with super missiles since they do double damage. Much faster to use 30 supers even than it is to use 20 shots of charge, plasma, ice, and wave. PantsNeck soon will be picking up that mirror. And the mirror also opens up a couple locations that NinTaylor hasn't checked yet either. Cave 45 and the Graveyard Ledge are now in logic.
I guess it kind of depends on where PantsNeck picked up that Master Sword, but really Bombo's tablet should also be in logic for him.
Yeah, I believe it is. We're thinking that the Master Sword was found in the Dark Cross room in Escape.
And it could be a long time before SuperNinTaylor gets back there.
Yeah.
Or it could be almost no time if he loops it in with Graveyard Ledge. I'm sorry, Commodore. I know you told me once already that it was in Dark Cross, and I forgot. My bad.
PantsNeck now has their mirror. See what they want to do with it. And that does mean that they have an easier way to access Tower of Hera too, so that may lead them back there. We also haven't seen either player check that bottle that they just picked up in Palace of Darkness either, so Sick Kid could be on the menu here.
PantsNeck changing their mind.
Being a little indecisive there. Probably thinking about Desert Palace, but instead gonna head back to Village of Outcasts. We'll see where they go from there.
SuperNinTaylor spotting the blue mail, gonna decide to forego it, having pretty good chunk of health in A Link to the Past, and as well as some good defensive options like Cape. Goodness, did we see Bumper Ledge?
I don't believe either player has checked Bumper Ledge. Ooh, but we do find the magic powder in Lore Norfair.
That'll be slightly relieving to SuperNinTaylor. There's a lot of applications for that, including the magic bat check, as well as turning anti-fairies into regular fairies is going to make the rest of his trek through A Link to the Past much easier and much...
Definitely. No, it looks like PantsNeck is going to be taking Gary's lunchbox through the southern loop here, checking K45 probably, as well as the Bombos tablet.
Varia was in Hera Hunchback Gaming, along with one other fairly good item, the Pegasus boot. And a place that we very, very much hope PantsNeck visits sooner rather than later to help them progress along in the seed. Let's see, so PantsNeck did Light Death Mountain, and then immediately went to Dark Death Mountain and ended up skipping Hera as well as checking the Ether tab. Which was unfortunate. He didn't have the mirror at the time, so having missed that check, it would have been a long road to get back and to...
Looks like Gary just had $5 for our players, but we'll see what the Bombos tablet has. 10 bomb upgrade. And it looks like PantsNeck is going to be heading to Desert Palace to hopefully complete that. I don't remember if this is boots locked.
I don't believe it is. Oh wait, I think Big Key might be on the torch. But SuperNinTaylor picking up the third sword upgrade that we've seen for his Master Sword, as well as Penguin feats at Upper Norfair Reserve area.
Oh man, so yeah, Varia really locking a lot of stuff here.
So that gives SuperNinTaylor full access to Swamp Palace, which may play some kind of role if the Cane or if the Fire Rod are there.
Yeah, Swamp, and I believe Ice is open as well, since we do have the Bombos medallion.
Yep, and I think you're right. I think I would be leaning on Ice Palace there as well, just because it's potentially a little bit fast. But really, Ice Palace and Swamp Palace are two difficult pills for me to swallow. There's nothing I like better than when both of those are pendants and not...
Oh, I'm the same way.
I will say, though, that the better I get at bomb jumps, the less that I mind Ice Palace. SuperNinTaylor getting a gate glitch on the first try, very impressively done. And this trick is pretty interesting. It's been around for a long time. You can only do it with left-facing gates, with I think one exception. And what you're doing here is you have to stand a little distance away from the gate, which is why they kind of backed up a little bit from it. You jump and you have to jump straight up. You don't want to do a spin jump, and also hold towards the gate a little bit. And what you're trying to do is spawn a missile or a super missile, in the case of a green gate, on the other side of the gate, or maybe not even on the other side, but you're moving the blast in such a way that it contacts the gate and opens it from the wrong side. And SuperNinTaylor gonna decimate Crocomire here. Oh, that's right. Plasma was at the torch, so this wasn't boots locked, but still having boots would be a lot. SuperNinTaylor checking the back of Crocomire, which has been a pretty good bet so far in this tournament. We've seen lots of items hidden behind Crocomire here lately, so we'll see if it pays off this time around.
I believe Crocomire had the ice beam behind him in my seed.
Our fourth sword upgrade, so SuperNinTaylor no longer going to miss that dark cross check at all whatsoever.
Looks like PantsNeck is finally going to head up Death Mountain to complete the Tower of Hera.
So SuperNinTaylor has exhausted most, if not all, of his upper Norfair checks here. So the question now becomes, what will you do next, SuperNinTaylor? Will you head to Meridia and stay in Super Metroid, or are you going to head back and maybe use those flippers that you found for Swamp Palace? And I'm kind of leaning towards that play, or towards Ice Palace, just because picking up flippers seems like the logic is trying to point you in that direction. Not 100%, not guaranteed, but it's certainly a possibility.
This is interesting. I haven't seen people do the shinespark before. So on the left side of that room, above Crocomire's lair, there are speed blocks that you're supposed to run through actually to get to Crockemeier's room. But I've never thought about actually just sparking through this the left way. So he's a little confused. He's a little high on that spark, though. I believe there are only speed blocks 3 high right there. So we'll probably just go through the Ice Beam area to find out what the missile in the wall is. But that would have been really cool to see. I've never thought about doing it that way.
I think Solsky might have done it in yesterday's race, but you're right, I almost never see it, and I usually fail it horrendously. Sometimes I use it trying to head to the right out of that room instead of to the left and try and clear that lava room a little quickly on my way to Lower Norfair, but never works out. And that other bottle sort of laughing at our players' late acquisition of the power bombs there.
I don't believe we saw PantsNeck check Sit Kid before doing that little South Dark World loop with the lunchbox. So Sit Kid could still have one of our items we need.
And looking like SuperNinTaylor are going to opt for Meridia rather than Ice or Swamp Palace. That's still not too bad, given that no matter what SuperNinTaylor does, they're going to have to clear all of those dungeons. So probably going to be thinking Meridia to Ice Palace to to Swamp. Actually, gonna go back and check X-Ray that they missed way earlier.
Now PantsNeck does have their boots. See if they head straight to Lower Norfair, and it looks like that is the plan. They may decide to finish Desert Palace first, because they know they can complete it. And it looks like that is what the plan is.
I believe they cleared Desert Palace while you stepped away for a minute, but they did see plasma on the torch while they were there.
Right.
So
That's what's on the torch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so definitely going to go back for that. Nicely routing that in with the information that PantsNeck had.
Absolutely. And that'll be very nice to pick up before heading to Lower Norfair. Oh, it looks like SuperNinTaylor making use of the save at the bottom of the business center there. Didn't find anything that they wanted to pick up at X-Ray, so they just reset, and they're going to straight up this elevator and get into Meridia a lot quicker than they would have been able to just heading back down Red Tower.
And for those of you out there in chat, I am simply not even going to mention the one check that SuperNinTaylor can't do right now in Meridia, because it bears no mentioning, and it would really just be the icing on the cake, and I will not do this to those runners.
Is that the red cane there?
Indeed.
In Main Street? It is.
SuperNinTaylor had a really good short charge earlier. I'm wondering if they can short charge the... they're going to go for this one. I've only seen it from the bottom or totally from the other room.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more lenient than the bottom of Main Street. Oh, a nice activation there. That's it's a little risky to do. That's only a 1-block gap for the speed blocks.
Just another great example, and this being one that I didn't even know about or didn't think of, that shows that there's sort of these beginning, intermediate, and advanced ways to handle the different situations that the randomizer gives you.
Yeah, I believe that does mean that SuperNinTaylor is only a fire rod away from go mode besides Quake medallion, but we do know where that is. And it also means that fire rod is not going to be, well, I guess fire rod could be found in Turtle Rock still. I have had fire rod on Laser Bridge before, just in a vanilla Link to the Past randomizer, which was terrible.
So I don't think you can do that since you can't get keys. You know, you wouldn't be able to do the key logic because of the floating torch room in this randomizer. But you could still get it in the very first chest with the spike.
I think you can get enough keys to get back to Laser Bridge without that first, without the right side. Can you?
Let's see, you would have to get a key immediately.
Yeah, and
which would take you to... Yeah, I guess it's possible as long as there were no keys in the spike roller room.
Yeah.
Again, that would be a crazy confluence of events, but certainly I think we've had quite enough of that here today.
And Taylor being a little stubborn here, trying to not mid-air morph there, but morph out of a wall jump instead of just bomb jumping there.
Yeah, there's so many seeds that you finish without morph ball bombs that sometimes you just forget that they exist.
Yeah.
So SuperNinTaylor, gonna go ahead and check these two locations real most likely before saving here and checking the other two, simply because they may wish to route directly to Ice Palace or Swamp Palace following Meridia, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, at this point, definitely. Might end up skipping out on the plasma beam check if they choose to head straight from Dragon back to A Link to the Past through the vanilla missile recharge room.
Yeah, I think that's another big proponent of checking those A Link to the Past locations first, just because you have to clear those anyway. Mm-hmm. So you might as well get some work done on your way, and you know, maybe you don't have to make that plasma check later, or at least it's an easier choice whether you check it or not.
Absolutely. I think personally, in Taylor's position, I'd be doing what he's doing just because I'm more comfortable playing Super Metroid than I am Link to the Past. But there's definitely something to be said about probably Swamp and Ice being a more efficient routing play.
SuperNinTaylor showing us another nice short charge, and we're going to get our first example of the microwave beam.
Oh yeah. Hello, Phantoon. And goodbye, Phantoon. Yeah, so again, the X-ray scope, it refreshes enemies' iframes, and with the plasma beam, The plasma beam goes through a lot of enemies, and also goes through some bosses, and stays on screen. So with the charge shot being stuck in Batoon's hitbox, you can just keep refreshing the iframes with the X-ray scope, and it'll keep doing damage every time it refreshes. And the same thing will happen to Dragon here, most likely.
I couldn't see what was at. I think the room is called Main Street. I couldn't tell what was above SuperNinTaylor as they were speed boosting.
Oh, after Batoon? Yeah, I didn't catch that, but it must not have been super important if he decided to skip straight past it. Yeah, any tank would make sense for them to skip. With 6, there's really... Actually, I mean, it's fine to skip it at 6. If they intend on doing the stand-up glitch, you'd want at least 7. Oh, and PantsNeck giving us a show of the plasma powerbomb beam combo.
Oh, there it is.
Wow.
Paying off big.
That puts NinTaylor in no mode. Will be in go mode once they finish their pendant dungeon and pick up Quake.
Yep. So that is absolutely great news. The only thing that would be better is finding Ice Beam somewhere, but it's probably not going to be in the cards unless it's on the way. SuperNinTaylor likely going to go mode the rest of the available.
PantsNeck is getting a little low here versus Ridley. I think Ridley is dead at this point. Either just has to wait to be picked up, or most likely just gonna... Ooh.
Takes a tail hit.
Let's have those reserves. I think at this point, just be screw attacking in the air to avoid the damage and just wait for Ridley to die. But he does get picked up. We'll take down Ridley. Very close, though.
Very lucky that they had 2 reserve tanks and not 1. That made all the difference there. Yeah, but now I think I can safely say it. Screw Shack Tool, not happening. Good job, SuperNinTaylor.
This is kind of crazy. I mean, it's all dungeons required for Link to the Past, but 6 of them have absolutely nothing. At least absolutely nothing required to finish the seed. Well, I guess that's not true. Eastern did have the flute.
You're not technically wrong, and that's the best kind of not wrong, but still. What a mess it would have been to get to Lower Norfair without flute in the sea. So hopefully we're going to get to see some nice tech here by SuperNinTaylor, including some bomb jumps in Ice Palace, in an attempt to clear this as quickly as possible. Here's our first bomb jump. Plenty of health and in go mode. Certainly no pressure here. Using a setup that I haven't seen there before. Gets it nicely though. So another interesting aspect of this seed, being able to go mode 2 dungeons that do not require big keys either, will also make them go slightly faster than some of the other possibilities.
Yeah, definitely. And being able to go mode Mire is always very nice, especially when you get an early big key.
Yep. This seed having a lot of similarities with the race yesterday. I wonder if we'll get another god mod. We were talking a little bit earlier about really nasty item placement locations, sort of the last place you type kind of check things. One of the other ones, other than Hammer being at the first chest in Swamp, is here in Ice Palace. I think you can get Hookshot or something similar in Ice Palace on the left side that gives you access to the right side. Now, I know you can do that with just bomb jumps and everything, but if you're following the logic closely, or if you're newer at the game, you may not think about that, and it may be one of those last checks that kind of comes back to bite you at the end.
I believe you can also find Hammer in Earliest as well.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, thank God. SuperNinTaylor's got to sell his bee in a jar first in order to buy that blue potion. A little bit of insurance for Turtle Rock, given the absence of half magic so far this seed.
Man, for being an all dungeon required seed, this is actually gonna be pretty fast.
Certainly. Although I only hesitate at that because there was one faster that I knew of. Oh, you know some of the similar pain that I do. So after my partner and my first win in the 2v2 co-op tourney, our second match in the winner's bracket was against Wild Anaconda and Alucard as well, and we had a Ped seed, and it was Hookshot at Ped, like it was pretty, and you know they still finished it in under 2.5 hours. It was absolutely crazy.
That's nuts.
But as you pointed out, this is still in incredible time for a Ped seed. Lots of our seeds this tournament have gone over 3 hours, even for some of us, our highest seeded runners. So certainly our runners performing admirably in the face of this Ped seed.
PantsNeck here will probably be heading in towards the reserve area to pick up the flippers and their tempered sword. They may opt to decide to skip Crocomire at this point, finding those flippers, and that would certainly help them out a lot, because there's just a sword down there.
and SuperNinTaylor showing us the shortest route through Swamp Palace. Again, without the big key, all you really need is one key, and it's right there in the room of the biggest room in Swamp Palace. So just going straight through there, skipping entirely the bottom two rooms as well as the entire left side, and gonna be able to complete Swamp in probably about 4 to 5 minutes less than full clearing it. Definitely a good smart time save, and again, better overall logic than I would have done.
Yeah, I do think overall that obviously it wasn't the correct play, but doing Swamp and Ice before Murdy was probably the more item dense play. I think a lot of this tournament is it's going to come down to, you know, there's going to be people making plays like this where you have all these locations like in the past. There's over twice the amount of locations to check in this game than there are Super Metroid. But obviously checking the ones in Super Metroid definitely paid out for Nintaylor here.
I'm glad you asked, Madagascar Dave. So this is the only round of Swiss in which we will have opponents with different records. Currently, I believe PantsNeck is 0-1 and SuperNinTaylor is 1. And welcome to the stream, Strizer. I don't know, Rutzors. PantsNeck had a really good showing early on and made some good gambles that actually put him ahead of SuperNinTaylor when it came to our power bomb findings, because power bombs, we didn't have any until about 40 or 50 minutes in this.
Yeah, it was really the Death Mountain route he chose, and choosing to skip Hera while he was up there the first time that really set him back, just because Varia and the boots were in Hera. It's looking like PantsNeck is going to go all the way down and find that sword at the end of Crocamire's area. We'll see if he decides to keep it. I don't believe they save before coming down here. So most likely not going to be resetting out of this.
Well, they still got the save room in the bottom right. We'll see if they go for it.
Yeah.
But, yep, probably going to keep it then. Alright, while we're covering some old ground here again, I'd like to remind you that this tournament has been brought to you and sponsored by Vi.gg. They have generously donated a prize pool for which both Ivan and I are competing for, in addition to PantsNeck and SuperNinTaylor. Currently, the prize pool, I believe, is $400 for first place, but that may go up if you decide to place some bets on Vi.gg. Certainly, Ivan may appreciate it more than me. Certainly, gonna be higher in the brackets than me. Who knows, though? Ivan and I may have a match at some point.
We may. PantsNeck gonna head back up with his gold sword. See if they decide to... I don't believe they ever went to the Ice Beam area, so they may do that before either heading back to Link to the Past or heading to Meridia. At this point, they really need to head to Meridia. Everything else they need to complete the seed is going to be in there.
And we've got a couple of folks in chat talking about perhaps getting into the randomizer. We'd really love that for you. I'm going to go ahead and drop some of the information, including the Discord. And I think Strider makes an excellent point here in that Super Metroid may seem really intimidating, especially if you're watching Elminster play or somebody like that who have just amazing tech. It does, don't get me wrong, it takes an insane amount of dedication and practice to play like that. But as we've been mentioning throughout this stream, there are a ton of sort of beginner, intermediate, and advanced tricks for Super Metroid. So really, just completing a seed at first is a good first step, and then starting to slowly add some of those tricks to your repertoire can be really rewarding. So, you know, I remember one of my first seeds for the combo randomizer was right around 5 hours or so, which is nowhere near competitive. But eventually I got used to some of the routing and everything, and you know, you add one trick at a time. First it's mock balls, and then it's short charges, and then it's Kraid quick kills, and before you know it, you know, Super Metroid is one of those games where you can really tell when you're getting better very, very evidently, because each of those little tricks shaves time off of your runs. So don't be afraid to try it for sure. It's tons of fun, even if you don't compete competitively.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something I always liked about Super Metroid in general. When I was still speedrunning it, it's very easy to get into the game. We've always said for new players coming in, it's a game that it's very friendly to beginners, but it has an incredibly high skill cap. You know, there's a lot of safeties you can take when you're starting out, but it does have a very high skill ceiling, which is something I do love about it. Ooh, SuperNinTaylor unfortunately taking a death there in the chain chomp room.
Yeah, those chain chomps are insane, and SuperNinTaylor may be slightly regretting not going out of their way a little bit for the blue mail there. So I think with either blue or red mail, chain chomps do like 4 hearts of damage, so I can't even imagine how much they do with green mail.
Getting it the second time there. Yeah, sometimes that chomp on the left just decides to block your cane shots too. Makes them very, very uncomfortable to do.
I can't remember if SuperNinTaylor has picked up the big key. By the looks of it, not just yet, for going around the long road in the...
Yeah, it does not look like it. Oh, maybe they have. I think if they hadn't picked up the big key yet, then they would certainly check the vanilla big key chest. Oh, okay. Maybe they're going back for it now. Yeah. That's dangerous to skip if you don't have the big key.
Yep. That as a rare phenomenon playing out on stream exactly as it did in my confused little... And SuperNinTaylor are going to gamble and go back here. Personally, I wish he'd honestly stop and pick up an anti-fairy there with his powder, just to make this a little bit safer since he's still green.
Yeah, this shouldn't be too much of an issue until Laser Bridge. This room can get a little out of hand, depending on these patterns, but should be able to take out these pokies no problem.
And SuperNinTaylor's also got a blue potion stocked, so I don't see a great reason not to use the fire rod against pokies and other things like that. A couple little things that could really make their life a little bit easier, especially now that they're in go mode. Sorry, no mode, sorry. Let's see, so SuperNinTaylor is still going to need to pick up one key here. It'll either be in the last room before Laser Bridge, or it'll be on Laser Bridge. I think this is the kind of situation where NinTaylor might hope that it was not on Laser Bridge, but such as...
Picks up the grapple beam, but Jack Tool will not be seen to succeed.
PantsNeck gonna have a little bit of microwave snake as well. Unfortunately, getting sort of a glancing blow there. Definitely got it this time around.
NinTaylor having some nice skips on these bridges.
Yep, I am definitely starting to believe that SuperNinTaylor is much more comfortable and confident in their A Link to the Past game. Just really, really nice laser bridge skips there, not taking a single heart of damage. Nice.
A nice cane dash there too to hit both those switches. PantsNeck's going to be killing Dragon here shortly, picking up the fire rod, and probably going to save first here, I would assume. Oh, maybe just forgot.
I hope so.
Forgot Dragon's down there. But yeah, they'll pick up their fire rod soon, and also know that it is time to dungeon rush.
Once again, I'd like you to take this opportunity to recognize our runners, Pansnek and SuperNinTaylor. I've posted both their Twitch channels in chat, so if you like what you see, make sure you check out the runners, maybe give them a follow. Also, on tracking today, again, Epi doing an excellent job. Thank you so much for helping us out in this monster of a seed. It's a real time commitment. And again, thank you very much to my co-commentator, Ivan, for putting up with me and all of my questions today.
See a question. I believe it was about the door into that room in Turtle Rock with all the switches and the pegs. Yeah, if you brush up against that railing as you're dashing past it, that does set up the key dash there. PantsNeck is now also in no mode. He'll be heading back to Link to the Past to complete all of those dungeons.
And SuperNinTaylor showing us a smart bit of routing here, saving Skull Woods for last, it being the last pendant. As soon as he walks out from defeating Mothula, he's going to be able to mirror and head right to the pedestal. Smart, smart.
Absolutely, yeah. That's something that a lot of people may not think about when going through seeds like this. They may just say like, "Oh, well, I'll just do Turtle Rock last because it's the hardest. I'll get the easy ones out of the way." But being able to just pick up Quake here right after completing Skullwoods, not having to come back into the forest, can be really nice.
PantsNeck getting some decent clips here. Normally I have to take off the gravity suit. It makes those a little bit easier.
Yeah, those things are a pain to get by, especially if you try and bomb over them. It's really nice that you can just jump and hold down and clip through them like that, because trying to bomb over them does not work most of the time.
And that crab trolling PantsNeck is having flashbacks to earlier this seed.
It's like PantsNeck's going to be going to Hobo here. Not sure exactly what he's looking to find up here.
So Wrath, SMZ3 is not necessarily emulator only, but it's kind of wonky to get it to work in other scenarios. I do know that it can be done on a Wii or a Wii U. It can be done with an SD card, with an adapter for an SNES. It can be done with an SNES Classic. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And I think most of our top tier runners tend to run it on a console of some sort. Sometimes emulators with PC sort of drop inputs a little bit, or not necessarily drop inputs, but they don't. There's just something about it that makes it a little less optimal, and sometimes you miss tricks that are not your fault, or at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, emulators do have input delay inherently, a couple frames of it, and it's not something that you would you're gonna notice if you only play an emulator, really. But if you ever play on console, and you go back to emulator, it's something you will notice, and it's gonna frustrate you. Like when I first got into speedrunning, I was playing an emulator for the longest time, and moving from that to console was like night and day. So.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. We do have one or two runners, even in this competition. Oh, did SuperNinTaylor almost hover dash that?
Yeah, he was attempting to. Looks like the big key was on that bridge. It may have been on the bridge or on the spike chest, I'm not sure which one. But it is an really big key in Mire, and if it's on that bridge... Actually, if it wasn't on that bridge, he would have just came through this room anyway, probably. But being on the bridge there, if you are able to hover, you can just hover straight across that middle section there instead of having to come all the way around here. And he almost did make it. He made it about 3/4 of the way, which is very impressive.
Yeah, so speaking of emulator versus console, hovering is one of those tricks that is probably nigh impossible on an emulator, but significantly more precise and much more likely to be successful in a console setting. Yeah, Aft, I think I remember the first time I saw somebody hovering, I think it was Andy at one of the GDQs, and it was, I mean, he had a rough time with it because it was still new at the time, but man, it was really... Now there's lots of folks that can do it, and it's, you know, it's one of those things that still gets talked about in the logic of these emulators, but for now, hover not being a required skill in normal or hard lock.
Oh, very nice. We got SuperNinTaylor doing the spooky switch there in Meyer, hitting that switch through the wall with the fire rod like that. I have no idea how that works. It's been explained to me and it still doesn't make sense, but very cool trick.
And we may get a 0 cycle here from SuperNinTaylor doing really good work against Vitro. Very nice fight. And some folks are telling me that my very co-host was the first one to hover. Is that true?
No, the first would actually be Jaden, an old Link to the Past runner. He's not around much anymore, but me and Andy learned how to hover together at SGDQ 2014. I think the last day, or the day after the last day, that was like they still used to have setups back then, even after the marathon was over for a day. People that wanted to hang out, and I think we spent most of that day trying to hover the Palace of Darkness bridge, the collapsing bridge. We did eventually get it, but that's one of the hardest hovers in the game. Not that it has any use, but it's just fun to do.
Yeah, I can only imagine the amount of it's not. I guess it's not technically mashing from the way that I understand it, but it would certainly be button pressing fatigue of some for a whole day of it.
Yeah, it gets really tiring.
We had another question in chat about sequence breaking and whether it's a good or bad idea. So sometimes it's a great idea, and most of the time I would even say it's a pretty good idea. But it requires a certain amount of familiarity with the logic in order to do effectively. So, for example, if our runners had not found flippers for a long time and had decided to fake flipper for some of their items, they would need to remember that those items would not be in logic until they found the flippers later. And trying to keep that information in your head is a little bit challenging, but it also gets a little bit more complex the deeper you go, because there's a little bit of hidden information as well the deeper you go in the seed. So my personal philosophy is that sequence breaking early is pretty generally favorable and generally good, because you have less stuff to remember and there's less stuff that can go wrong, but that's not always the case. There are some things that could absolutely be great sequence breaks near the end of the game.
Yeah, I'm definitely on team sequence break early and often. It's just you need to be able to keep track of what is and isn't in logic from what you get from it. And it also can be helpful later on in the seeds, like if suppose flippers were the last thing they were looking for as their go mode item to complete Ice Palace and Swamp. And maybe flippers are in some one-off location in Super Metroid that, neither of them's going to check for a while. They could be thinking about where they want to go routing-wise while still doing Ice Palace if they fake flipper there, and being able to go mode Ice Palace because they know that, flippers aren't going to be in Ice Palace by logic. So they can do all of Ice Palace while thinking about their route afterwards. Because it's going to be something they have to do.
And SuperNinTaylor entering Ganon's tower. So see a lot of guesses in chat. That's great news. We want to see. We have a little bit of a guessing game for the big key. I don't think that there's any particular or stellar reward for it, but get your guesses in quickly before SuperNinTaylor finds it. So something else that we haven't seen too much here, we may get to see a little bit more depending on how the next two rooms go, is doing some clever bonking using the Pegasus boots. So we may see SuperNinTaylor do some pretty nifty little skips using them. See how Rando Room turns out here. Rando Room, so called because normally you don't see it in any category other than Randomizer. Okay, so we are going to get to see an example of some interesting bonking behavior here. So SuperNinTaylor is going to get right up next to a warp tile here and bonk against the wall in such a way that will knock him over top of it as he presses against the lower wall. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm full of crap. There's still another chance in the next room as well.
Yeah, that is a nice bonk skip though. Just to skip those two warp tiles. He just went a little too high there, unfortunately.
There we go. So there's a gap that, of course, you couldn't see. But I swear to you, SuperNinTaylor did an actual trick there, and it was worth doing.
Yeah, PantsNeck's still opening up a bunch of chests here. I would assume at this point he's really only looking for the ice beam. That's really going to be the only thing that's have any worth to him. Wave would be nice just for some extra damage with charge shots, but it's really not something you're ever going to need. Like the big key is on the right side of Ganon's tower today.
And that's really just been kind of the tone of this seed.
Yep. Wouldn't be surprised if it was in the tile room.
SuperNinTaylor gonna forego the tile room. Doesn't possibly think that his luck can get any worse.
No, there's no way. This seed would never do that to them. Ooh, and taking a little too much time there. Gonna have to redo this torch room. He does have a blue potion, so it's not the end of the world if he doesn't get it with the lamp here.
Oh no. I don't think time passes on the torches while you're refilling.
Okay, made it in.
Yep, just so.
A nice cane dash there to bonk the tire, to bonk the block over too.
There's our big key. I don't even know what number it was. Probably like 17?
2, 21. I think that'd be 19.
Alright, well, if you said 19, you're a winner. in your head.
PantsNeck is also realizing that since Skullwoods is one of the pendants, he should be doing that last. So he's gonna have to throw a rock and finish that off right now. Yeah, SuperNinTaylor is definitely ahead at this point. No discredit to PantsNeck though. He was ahead for a while in the early game in this seed, and just that decision that cost him was not going into Hera early on when he had the opportunity.
Escape didn't have a whole lot aft, but it is the reason PantsNeck's carrying a gold sword and SuperNinTaylor is carrying a tempered sword. We saw one upgrade at Dark Cross. I don't think we saw much of anything else at Escape.
Yeah, I don't believe the front or back of escape had much else. A nice one-cycle landmo do there with the silver arrows.
I really love this this Ganon's Tower sort of gauntlet sequence. There's a lot of neat cane strats in here that just look really clean to anyone who's not used to seeing A Link to the Past speedrun, and the best part is that they're relatively easy.
Yeah.
Just geometry. And a mirror shield for SuperNinTaylor. Checking these last two boxes possibly for Ice Beam. I don't know if Ice Beam can be in Ganon's Tower.
I think it can be. I don't think I'm not sure if Ice Beam is ever required in Logic for Torian. So you can kill the Metroids with power bombs. I would assume it can be in Ganon's Tower, but I'm not positive on the logic.
And SuperNinTaylor not gonna risk the hover over Moldworm. Gets the validation chest, and that's about what one arrow is worth, is 20. Maybe one silver arrow, not a regular arrow.
Yeah, it can definitely be progression for other parts of Super Metroid, but if you have items to get around that progression, then I don't see any reason why it couldn't be in Ganon's Tower.
Wow, that was
very nice.
They were all right on top of each other. I've never seen that before. SuperNinTaylor getting the swag pose for the duck. Getting the Zelda 1 reference from Ganon here. I love it. And still, Greenmail Ganon. This is not a free fight for SuperNinTaylor by any means.
No, he is past the second phase though, so it does get a little easier from here.
Yep, and I do think he used that blue potion, so he shouldn't have anything left to fall back on. So let's hope that nothing untoward.
Ooh, fires just a little early to miss the torch glitch there. We have silver arrows, so it's not a huge deal. Ooh, and almost gets a triple arrow on that last one there.
Gets that last hit in just in time, though, and get your G's in chat for SuperNinTaylor. 1 down, 1 to go. So I'm now realizing that we must have come across dreadfully few energy tanks overall in this seed. Only 7 for like a 9 dungeon is pretty.
Yeah, it seems like it. They definitely did skip a couple. There was one above Phantoon. But yeah, 7 is pretty low for the amount of dungeons and Super Metroid that they had to complete.
Based on SuperNinTaylor's Super Metroid performance today, I'm sort of doubting that he'll be looking to do a stand-up glitch anyway, but can still do a somewhat optimal Mother Brain fight with what he.
Yeah, I mean, he did refill the ship there, which is probably a smart move. With 70 supers and no ice beam, no wave beam, it's going to be faster to kill Mother Brain with super missiles than it would be just to do it with charged plasma.
Yeah, I also never think about not having ice or wave, and I'm just so used to getting the Zebetite skip. It's, that's another huge missile sink too.
Yeah. It is possible to skip it with the speed booster as well. It's a really tight short charge. I'm not sure how comfortable SuperNinTaylor is with it, or PantsNeck for that matter. So that also may be why PantsNeck was opening more chest than Swamp. Just really looking for that ice beam.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's if you need to do like a stutter 1 or a stutter 2 or what it is.
But it's at the very least, I believe it's a stutter 3 tap.
Yeah, that is anything but free. And plus, if you don't get it, you've got the door transition too, and
you gotta go all the way back.
Yeah, it's only worth 1 or 2 tries at best, even if you're pretty good at them.
Mm-hmm. One of those Metroids did not take a hit from one of those power bombs. I believe it actually takes 4 damaging hits from power bombs to kill Metroids. And power bombs stay on the screen long enough to hit Metroids and other bosses like Ridley twice before they go away, but they do need to be close to the epicenter of the explosion for it to work.
Yeah, SuperNinTaylor, moving around a little bit, avoiding taking some damage, which is probably not that big a deal, unless he's really intending on getting Baby Skip, but that's probably not worth it at this point.
Yeah, he may go for it and then just refill later, just refill after anyway, but it looks like he is just going to take the damage, which is probably a smart move. Yeah, if you're going to have to refill anyway, it's not a huge time loss to just get hit by the Metroid there. And it may even save time, depending on how long the skip takes you.
SuperNinTaylor getting the right-facing animation, which has slightly fewer sprites, I think it is, and makes it take slightly less time than facing to the left.
Yeah, if you're facing right when the Metroid grabs you, or I guess incapacitates you, Samus is able to stand up quicker than if you're facing left. It's very strange, but for some reason that's how it works. PantsNeck picks up their red pendant. We'll be heading to Skull Woods and then to get Quake right after this. We'll see here if SuperNinTaylor goes for the short charge or decides to just completely missile these Zebetite gates.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if that save was going to be indicative of anything, but maybe that's just a save.
Most likely just a safety save, yeah. But they are gonna up to just missile down these Zebetites. With the amount of ammo they have, it's not a huge time loss anyway, even if you got the short charge the first try. Certainly have more than enough to break the tank and kill Mother Brain still. The one thing that does suck about not having ice here is these Rinkas. If you freeze them and then kill them with Ice Beam, they don't come back for a while. But if you kill them with anything else, they come back almost immediately. As you can see, they're knocking him around that platform, knocking him into the acid. Just these little time losses that he's forced to take because not having Ice Beam like that.
Yeah, I'm starting to believe that Rinkas are the mold worms of Super.
It looks like they are going to choose to just charge Plasma a couple shots. Probably just to make up for the 3 supers that they were missing from the 60. Which isn't a bad idea. It's probably an even break between the time it would take to fire 9 missiles and the time it takes to fire 3 charge shots, so... Oh no, it looks like he is going to go for stand-up, refilling his energy there.
I wonder if then SuperNinTaylor's feeling a little bit behind with all the craziness this seed has brought.
Yeah, I'm sure at several points in the seed both players definitely felt like they were behind. I think pulling those power bombs out of the Gauntlet for SuperNinTaylor made him feel like he was probably behind there too. And I'm sure Varia and Harry did the same to PantsNeck.
Yeah, so in case you were late joining us, power bombs were particularly trolly in this seed. So neither of our runners, they came to Super Metroid with Morph Ball and Screw Attack, I believe, and neither one decided to check Gauntlet early on, which the front of Gauntlet had a power bomb pack and probably would have been the optimal move. But there were also some at Spore Skip. But since they hadn't checked Gauntlet, they didn't have any way of blowing away the blocks to do Spore Skip. So they eventually found Morph Ball bombs much later on, and PantsNeck came back and checked Spore Skip a little bit earlier than SuperNinTaylor, and built up a little bit of a lead early on from those power bombs. So it was a really nutty seed in how the power bomb layout went, and it was, I don't think we had any for 40 to 50 minutes. It was pretty. And PantsNeck getting the ped pull here right as SuperNinTaylor is finishing up, so that home stretch feeling for PantsNeck finally being on the final road to finishing up this abomination.
Really has been quite the seed.
Yeah, that's right, Ndiaz. I think we had a featured race on Sunday or Monday 2 weeks ago, which was looking like a pretty regular seed early on and turned into a blind ped, which was that's never a nice thing.
That is just the worst.
Well, Malcrios, I'm of the opinion, and I'm sure Ivan is too, that no self-respecting speedrunner saves the animals unless they've lost.
Save the frames. Always save the frames. Never save the animals.
There are no style points for saving the animals. There are only second penalties for saving the animals. And that'll do it for SuperNinTaylor. GG. Get your GGs in chat, and congratulations to SuperNinTaylor.
Finishing with an official SRL time of 3 hours, 14 minutes, and 26 seconds. I'm sure we'll see if we can get SuperNinTaylor in here for an interview shortly.
And it looks like SuperNinTaylor will be joining us in a few short minutes. Meanwhile, PantsNeck finishing up their last regular dungeon before GT. And we are now joined by the winner of the seed, SuperNinTaylor. Congratulations. Does it feel like a win with a seed like?
Kind of actually, because the fact I feel like that was a fairly decent time, 3:14 for that seed.
Yeah,
so I'll consider it a win.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty fast seed for a Pedestal seed.
Yeah, like when I found that fire rod, I was worried I was going to be looking for that for a while, but once I found that behind Dragon, I was like, holy crap, I'm in go mode.
Yep, we were definitely talking about it, and, you know, I was telling Ivan that personally I probably would have made the wrong choice because you had found the flippers in Upper Norfair as well, and I'd be like, oh, that's probably pointing him towards Swamp Palace, and it turned out that that was not the right play at all, so good on you for not doing what I would.
Yeah, well, I was already in Super Metroid. When I'm in a game, I try to clear as much of that game as I can before transitioning to the next game. So once I found that gravity, I knew right away I was clearing every item in the game before I was going back to Link to the Past.
Right.
So the fact that my progression was there was pretty awesome.
Yep, so we definitely had some crazy stuff, not just Ped. Okay, Ped was gross, but how about those power bomb locations?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, so
I felt lost for a while. It's so awkward trying to route without power bombs.
yeah, it's really bad. So both of you, PantsNeck actually found power bombs earlier than you did. After getting the Morph Ball bombs, they went back to the Spore Spawn super location and got those from there immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you found yours up in the Gauntlet. So they were ahead for a little while there. And then I believe on Death Mountain is when you pulled back ahead because they decided to put off doing Hera and didn't come back for the various suitor boost till much later.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was I was pretty happy about finding the boots there too, because I considered going to Desert earlier, and I was like, no, let me just check Death Mountain and Hera first, just in case boots are here. And then Molderon dropped the boots, so I was like, yes! So yeah, I feel like I made some pretty decent routing choices.
Yeah, I have to say, your A Link to the Past, especially once you hit Go mode, you had some really great stuff, like no damage laser bridge was really well done. And then your Armos Knights both of those fights were really good. You had some really nice, really solid Link to the Past play tonight, so you should absolutely be proud of it.
The Argus was a bit unfortunate, but we'll let that slide.
But then there was one other thing that that was confusing, and you can just tell me to shut up and not answer it if you want. But were you trying to do a crystal flash there in Rex?
Yeah, but then I realized what I was doing wrong. So Super Metroid's not my main game, and I haven't crystal flashed in forever. I forgot you had to be below 50 energy.
Yeah.
Or at 50 energy or lower. I was like, why isn't it working? I actually, during the bowling cutscene, I actually Googled how to crystal flash. I was like, oh yeah, duh. That probably would have saved time if I remembered that. Oh.
Yeah, it was a really peculiar set of circumstances too. If you hadn't had morph ball bombs, you would have run out of power bombs too. So it was a really obscure situation in which it might have been okay. But generally speaking, you're absolutely right that Crystal Flash is normally not useful.
Yeah. PantsNeck actually choosing to go full right even without the key, and hoping for a key in the tally room, I guess. We'll see if there's one in here. Hopefully for his sake there is, but I'm not sure how many keys are found in Ganon's tower.
So, Taylor, anything else in the seed that that really struck you, or that you want to point?
Nothing that I could recall at the moment. I felt like there could be a chance I was behind during wrecked ship and all that. It's because of how long it took me to get power bombs, and then just dying a few times, taking forever to farm because I don't know how to crystal flash.
Yeah, and besides the power bombs,
I was wondering if I was actually behind at that point.
You may still have been. I'm not positive, because besides the power bombs, PantsNeck actually went down to Retro Brinstar pretty early as well, and got the speed booster. So they were able to do basically all of Brinstar in one go after finding the morph ball bombs and finding those power bombs finally. Oh
yeah, that was a part in the game where I was pretty indecisive. I almost went down. I was like, no, let me just.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Gauntlet. I don't know. It was a tough call to make because without power bombs, you go down there and then you start isolating Billy Mays, and then
yeah, exactly. I would have made the same call.
That can put you in trouble
and skip that for a while.
I don't know. I felt good about my play, even though I think Billy Mays or somewhere down there had something good. Might have been the first missile pack.
I think it was area. There was a sword in the Billy Mays room, I believe.
Or was it the bow? Maybe might have been the bow. Not in Billy Mays, but the first missile pack area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something I think like that. Yeah.
It was either Blue Brinstar or Criteria that it was in.
Yeah. But I guess it wasn't really a big deal finding that later. I didn't really need it right away anyway.
Yeah.
What else stood out? The Ridley fight was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a really clean Ridley.
Killing Dragon with just charged plasma in one little swoop. That was pretty sweet. Yeah,
yep, Chat was super happy that you decided to microwave all of your food today.
Yeah, of course. Always.
PantsNeck coming up on Rando Room. Unfortunately, got a little ways to go before he heads over to the right side and finds the big key. But, oh yeah, that's another thing. We didn't see any bottles for about an hour and a half either.
Yeah, that first one from Palace of Darkness. I don't know if anybody checked the kit. I don't remember.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Palace of Darkness. That's another area I screwed up. So the way I routed, I knew the last two front chests were small keys, but then for some reason I went and grabbed the keys anyway.
Oh yeah,
we were talking
perfectly
about
where
that.
I could skip that. Yeah, I was like, I can just hammer jump or bomb jump, and then just completely skip the other two keys, and then I just went back for them anyway. I was like, what am I doing? This is the whole point to me. Oh.
We talked about that too, and I completely miscounted the keys that you already had picked up, and I thought there was an item down there.
And I had no idea what the key count was or anything. And all I was saying to myself is, I think one of those last two has to be a key, but I have no idea about the other one.
Well, it's not even about counting the keys. Like, there can only be... So there has to be at least 4 keys at the front. And there's 6 areas there. The first chest at the left was a big key. And then on the right side, there was another item. So that was the only 2 possible things that could not be a small key. The other 4 had to be a small key.
Okay.
I see what you're saying, Ivan, about somebody explaining it to you and still not understanding.
Yeah, I'll that's something I need to
Me too, for
get
sure.
down for the rest of these races, is a lot of the key logic and Link to the Past.
Yeah. I feel like there's some pretty tough key logic. Like, ice is probably the most complicated to figure out.
Yeah.
There's some interesting key logic with Meyer and stuff.
I think with Meyer, the room above where you light the 4 torches, with the tiles, if that's a small key, I believe the big key has to be vanilla or something like that.
I don't know about that. Who knows?
I think Andy mentioned that to me, because otherwise you could screw yourself out of even getting in that room if you could use your keys elsewhere.
Right. So it's just me and Solski, I think, right now at 2-0.
I believe so. And I think after this there will be 12 runners at 2-0. It's narrowing down that pool.
Be interesting to see who I get next.
Yep.
Well, it can't be me, I'll tell you that much.
Maybe it'll be Ivan.
I'm gonna say it probably won't be me, but we'll see.
Oh, you got a free matchup.
Yeah, okay. No, I think that I definitely don't think that I'm just gonna for sure lose, but I think it'll be a good match. I hope it'll be a good match.
I think Andy's definitely like a favorite to do well in the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel bad for anyone sitting at 1-1 right now, because having Zost and Solski matched up in the first round means one of them is 0-1, and that's
kind of scary.
just awful.
Yeah, it kind of messes things up a little bit. I guess that's the nature of the first round of draws.
Yeah.
Yep, I got OC in my first round, and he beat me black and blue, and I was like, oh my god, if I have to go against Zost or Solski my second round, I am just gonna sit in a corner and cry the rest of the tournament.
Right, I think I'm gonna make something to eat. I have these noodles staring at me, and I'm not able to eat them.
Don't let us keep you.
Maybe I'll go do that and then spectate the rest of this race as it's going on.
Absolutely. Once again, great seed. Doing absolutely great stuff with the horrible hand that it dealt you. Congratulations again, SuperNinTaylor. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, congrats again.
Thanks. See you guys.
See you. I've got PantsNeck heading up the Gauntlet now. A little trouble in this, in the Mimic room, Mimic Stew here. That one can be a little tricky to hit when it gets stuck in between the pots like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't even really mind the mimics. It's the laser beams that usually get me, like they got PantsNeck. And with the huge knockback on them, they're just obnoxious. So I'd like to once again plug the runner that you just heard, SuperNinTaylor, as well as PantsNeck, finishing up in the next 20 minutes or so. Just got Ganon's Tower, Ganon and Motherbrain left. Please check out these runners' channels if you get a moment. Give them a follow. If you love what you've seen here, and if you want more of it, we've certainly got a lot more coming your way this evening and tomorrow. Also, I want to thank my co-commentator Ivan for joining me today and doing most of the heavy lifting, let's be honest with each other, and Epi for doing an outstanding job solo tracking our race for 3 hours and 30 minutes without a single bathroom break.
I don't know about heavy lifting, but definitely go give our runners a follow if you like this content, because this is some of what they stream. They're both excellent runners of these combo randomizers.
No, Commodore, I'm saying that Ivan's back is strong, and they carried me through this commentary.
I feel the opposite way around, so...
You're too kind. But yeah, absolutely. I had a great deal of fun. Thank you for joining me today, Ivan. This has been a real pleasure.
Same. It was a fun day.
PantsNeck opting for pit strats there. Kansai Bene, forgive me if I brutalized your name. There actually was a co-op tournament for this content. Gosh, probably about 3 months ago now, and it was a great opportunity, a great way to especially get into this kind of running. I don't know that I would have ever joined this 1v1 tournament if I hadn't done a 2v2 with a partner. It really makes a huge difference to have somebody saying, "Hey, you forgot to check that, you dunce," or "Thank God you checked that because I forgot it," type kind of thing. And that's another great way to learn these kind of randomizers, is to join up with somebody on Discord and share locations with each other and work together to complete a seed. It also takes a lot less time to do that as well, and early on it may seem like a daunting time commitment to do one of these, and having a partner certainly helps the time go by faster.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that I decided to do the 2v2 tournament first, just because I think a lot more people got into it that probably wouldn't have if they had done just the 1v1 tournament. But it is really nice doing 2v2s, just having people to, bounce ideas off of in terms of both of your routing. It's always good to have a second set of, eyes and ears for the seed. But it's also really fun just, getting to talk through the seed with somebody and try and figure out the logic of it, because I know in a lot of me and Andy's practice, and even in some of our tournament matches for the 2v2 tournament, there'd been several times when his Link to the Past routing and knowledge came in handy, because I'd go like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do X, Y, and Z now," and he'd go, "Are you sure? Because you don't have the mirror, or you don't have this item." And I go, "You know what, Andy? You're very right. I can't do all that stuff that I was about to go try."
Yeah, you hear that, everybody? Everybody ask Andy to be their first co-op partner when they run their first seed. That's kind of an interesting idea, Kansai. But it would use existing technology to do that. And believe it or not, if you're not familiar, this randomizer, the combination randomizer, is really only like less than a year old. PantsNeck got a fairy to save him here. But yeah, I suppose you could do that. Hey, Kansai, how about you create a speedrunning channel and create a tournament and everything? And tell you what, I'll absolutely play that kind of tournament. But so the history of the randomizer itself is also an interesting topic of conversation. So it's very strange. You know, people were always this idea has been around for a long time, as in, you know, what if we mash these two things together? But really, folks only, and specifically Total, only said it a few short months ago, hey, what if I tried this? And it was actually discovered that the way that the cartridges were worked, the original ones, the way that the memory was stored within it was such that, for lack of a better description, all the Link to the Past stuff was stuck on the left side of its cartridge, and all of the Super Metroid stuff was stuck on the right side of its cartridge. And I'm not going to say it was easy, but it certainly made it a lot less challenging to put the two together, and that might be one of the only reasons why we have these combination randomizers. I think it's really great that there are a couple other ones that have started to take root as well. I think there's a Zelda 1 and Metroid randomizer, and maybe at least one other aside from that.
Yeah, I was watching some of somebody play a Zelda 1 Metroid Rando the other day. It looks really cool, but I know basically nothing about either game, so I won't be trying it anytime soon. But yeah, it's absolutely insane that the RAM storage on both these cartridges just happened to be the exact opposites of each other, so they were easily able to just stick them together. I think Total mentioned that it wouldn't have been impossible, but it definitely did make it a lot easier to make this combo randomizer.
Yeah, I don't think I could do a Zelda 1 regular Metroid randomizer. All the rooms in Brinstar and in Metroid 1 look exactly the same.
I think something that was added for at least Metroid was I noticed that there was a map like in the top corner of the screen, which is not an actual thing in the original ROM, but it would be something I would definitely need if I was ever going to try that. Because yeah, a lot of those rooms they just look the exact same, and I get so lost.
And the creators of the randomizer are also extremely active. So Total's actually in the tournament. I think you were personally a witness to that.
Yeah, I actually played Total in the first round, and we had quite a seed on our hands. I definitely felt like I was behind for a lot of it, but I'm sure he did too, based on how the seed went.
It was an extremely entertaining seed. You folks should definitely check it out if you want to see what Ivan's runs are like. If you want to see what my runs are like, you absolutely shouldn't ever see what that's like. But where I was going with that, I guess, is so Total's still doing a lot of, and to be totally fair, it is absolutely not just Total all by themselves. There's a whole bunch of other folks, and you know, certainly Total's the lead on it and everything. But there's still a lot of interesting stuff in the works and a lot of interesting conversations about what the future of this randomizer are in terms of logic, emerging tricks, possibly like an entrance or key sanity randomizer eventually, similar to some of the other Zelda 3 variants on randomization.
Yeah, I believe key sanity has been in development for quite a while at this point. I don't know how close it is to being ready. An entrance randomizer would be very interesting between these two. That would be God, I have enough trouble with Link to the Past entrance randomizers.
Yeah, I think that the number of items in Super Metroid is a little bit less or a little bit more than A Link to the Past, but the number of rooms is probably pretty similar or more in Super Metroid as well, which would be you'd be almost doubling your workload for an entrance randomizer.
Yeah, and that is true. That Super Metroid does have an entrance randomizer already. But I just mean in terms of like how confusing it would be to keep track of where doors go into both games. That's something that would be very daunting to me. But yeah, Super Metroid does have. It's actually the item percentage count at the end of the game is really convenient because Super Metroid only has 100 items in the game compared to Link to the Past like 216. So each percent is just one item for Super Metroid. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to Key Sanity. And Key Sanity being implemented will probably make the Super Metroid logic a little more interesting. Because right now, there's only a couple items you really need to be able to basically complete the game. But Key Sanity, I believe, is going to add door locks to the boss doors.
Yeah, I think the eye doors are going to be keyed, and
Yeah.
that's the only real one that's in there so far. But I would be pleasantly surprised by some other things as well.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many green and orange doors there are in the game, but to create kind of a similar number of keys that there are in A Link to the Past, one of those two or both might get you a little bit closer, but that may end up being too much of a barrier as well. But I agree, you're absolutely right that you really only need like space jump, morph ball, a bomb source, and the suits to get through most of Super Metroid.
Yeah.
And that extra layer would really kind of balance out the workload between the two games.
I know this has been talked about before, just for the vanilla Super Metroid randomizer as well. Just because I mentioned before, that's why I'm not a huge fan of the vanilla randomizer. Is just because it always seems like there's just two, you either go early wreck ship or you don't go early wreck ship, and those are basically the two routing options you have for the vanilla randomizer for Super Metroid. But it's been talked about before, like, just maybe we add speed blocks in some places, maybe we add power bomb blocks in some places, just to limit the areas you are able to go to with what you have, which would definitely make it a little more interesting.
PantsNeck cutting it a little bit close here. I only say that because he's only got 24 supers and he's going to have a lot of charge beam shots to pump into Mother Brain with only really about 5 to 6 energy tanks worth of health. Going to have to play it a little safe.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how much damage just Charged Plasma does. I would have known years ago when I was still speedrunning this game a lot and I actually knew damage values, but I know it's over, I believe it's over 300 at the very least, just because Plasma does so much damage, period.
I bet Elm will tell us.
I'm sure Elm knows, yeah. Gotta be a little careful here. Can't take too many more hits from those onion rings.
About to get the orange death beam here too. Gonna have to be pretty careful.
Looks like it's gonna make it through okay though. Yeah, once again, just super unfortunate that
Oh, welcome, PantsNeck. I'm sorry I invited you a little bit early because we're running out of time, and I wanted to make sure we got a chance to talk to you about this seed before we had to close out for the day. So, tell us, how do you...
I feel cursed.
yeah, so reading this is your second pedestal seed in a row.
Yeah, it's like, well, with this tournament anyway. It's like,
Right, yeah.
To the tournament, pedestal seed, but I didn't know. This time around, it wasn't pedestal seed, but I played it smart and I checked pedestal. It's like, oh, it's Quake. I sure hope I don't need. Oh, would you look at that? I do need Quake.
Yep.
Yeah, there were just an insane number of things working against you and SuperNinTaylor today, including the lack of early bombs was pretty crappy too, and led to some interesting routing. And and believe it or not, and I really hope that you watch this back, put you ahead of SuperNinTaylor for a good period of time.
Yeah, I kind of believe. I think what really paid off for me most is like, I went to Sahasrara and then dipped into Eastern Palace early. It's like, oh hey, here's Flute.
Yeah, that did save you some routing too, not having to go all the way back to Kakariko to activate the bird.
At what point did we kind of diverge and then he got ahead? Because I'm wondering how the heck he got 30 minutes ahead.
So when you were first on Death Mountain, you did all of Eastside in the Light World and then just transferred to the Dark World and decided not to do Hera. And he did Hera when he was there the first time and got the various suit and the boots. And that's really when he kind of took off and gained the lead.
Yeah, see, I was really tempted to do Hera, but at the same time, I don't think I had a fire source to really go there. And I was afraid if I went to Hera, I'd be fire locked out from whatever items in the basement. But seeing the spec now, I really should have dipped into Hera early.
I think so. Lamp was in Bombable Hut in Thieves Town, and by the way, good on you for saving the animals. By the way, you're going to make a lot of people in chat really happy.
Ooh.
It's like, I don't care if I'm ahead or behind. I will always save the animals.
You may get some followers out of that, PantsNeck. But yeah, that divergence was really that was the thing, and it was so crazy because there was a lot of other really good routing in the seed. Like both you and SuperNinTaylor saved Skull Woods to be the last pendant because, oh yeah, you can just go to Ped right after that. And that's something that was, oh yeah, that's a great play, but something that was maybe a little bit more cerebral and something that I didn't think about until I saw one of you do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the scariest part about this whole run for me is like when I was fighting Ridley and I got down to out of my reserves on my last E-tank and I got grabbed by him and that was the end of the fight.
Yeah, it was super close.
Really scared I was going to screw that one up.
You got a little unlucky with the timer on Ridley too, because I'm pretty sure you had done enough damage to kill, quote unquote, kill Ridley a while before you actually got picked up. And Ridley is a stupid boss in Super Metroid. For anybody that doesn't know, the way Ridley works is Ridley has 18,000 health, and once you deal 18,000 damage to Ridley, you either get picked up by Ridley and he'll die immediately, or a timer activates as soon as Ridley's health hits 0. And it seems to be a completely random timer, and once that timer hits 0, Ridley will just explode in the air, and you win the fight that way. But there's no way to know, if you're going to get a fast or slow timer, so you always want Ridley to pick you up when possible. But I think being that low, it may have been a good idea to just screw attack space jump in midair until Ridley died.
Yeah.
But luckily he picked you up right before went and lost all your health there.
And you also got pretty unlucky because you only had 2 reserve tanks, and the hit that killed you was a tail hit. I am almost sure of it because of the incredible amount of damage that it did to you. And so you really took 2 tail hits for the price of 1 there, and that must have been pretty scary. But both you and NinTaylor also had some pretty close Phantoon fights as well. You were both below a tank on that when you finished as well. So definitely some risky Super Metroid boss stuff today, but both of you pulled through.
I mean, out of the way, GG for SuperNinTaylor getting that, like, really impressive time compared to mine. Freaking 30 minutes ahead of me. Jeez.
Yeah. Honestly, if you decided to do Hera when you had the opportunity, I think this would have been a really, really close race.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I would also, you should not get down on yourself at all for a 3-hour and 30-minute ped seed. I mean, there's a lot of variables going into it, but with all the stuff that this seed threw at you, I don't think that is a time to be ashamed of one bit. So we're definitely, we're looking forward to see what else you can do in the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, and for the most part, you guys made a lot of the same routing decisions. Like after Lower Norfair, going to pick up your flippers, and then instead of going into Link to the Past and going to, say, Swamp or Ice with Bombos, just decided to go straight into Meridia and found everything else you needed there, which saved you a bunch of time being able to go mode those dungeons as well.
Yeah, I didn't even bother wanting to check the sand pits, because like once I found like all the Link to Past items, like, okay, to heck with Meridia, I'm out.
Exactly, yeah.
Mode.
All right. Do you have any other final thoughts about the seed?
I'm just happy I was able to enjoy this Pedestal seed, unlike the last one.
Well, I think I speak for everybody here in chat as well as my co-commentator, Ivan. We had an absolute pleasure watching you guys run the seed. Winced a little bit at some of the torture there, and I don't think we even said the word Shack Tool the entire broadcast, so that was pretty good.
I was really tempted to check Shack Tool, but it's like, no, I don't want to lose too much time, and I doubt he'll have anything at this point.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so again, everybody, please check out PantsNeck and SuperNinTaylor, our runners today. Give them one last GG and some happy emotes in the chat. I'd like to again thank Epi for tracking a really long seed for us without any breaks. Thank you so much for running that, and Ivan for being an excellent co-pilot on this seed. I'm Sinus, and we'll see you guys next time.
Take care.